We're going to start the meeting. We had a couple that necessitated starting a little bit late, but we'll get her done. And the mayor will be here shortly. He's been caught up on the roads, and we'll get things started and do introductions. So we have disclosure of pecuniary interests under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Anyone with that? Seeing none, we'll have can I have a motion to convene into open session? Is that what this one is?
Yeah.
Number 5, yes. Moved by Councillor Colwell, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the Town of Minto Council convenes into Committee of the Whole to conduct budget deliberations. All in favor? Opposed, if any? I declare the motion carried. Okay. Addition items. Do we do that in budget?
If you have any, Mr. Deputy Mayor, but you don't
Okay.
typically have any, and
Well, then
have
I'll
a regular meeting tonight.
Yeah.
So
Then I'll ask for the budget purposes, any additional items disclosed at this time, and if you do so, we will accept additional items as you see fit, at the discretion of the mayor, of course. Okay, so resolution moving council.
you did that. You're good. I think that was the one number 5 that you did.
Okay, so what have I got? Number 7 here.
You're doing an introduction now.
Are you looking at the right one? I think
Well, it
you're
sure
looking
looks like
You do one, and then
budget.
that's it.
So the Committee of the Whole convenes into the Town of Minto Council. So I've done number 5,
Yes.
right? The introduction.
6A.
There we go.
Okay, now we're on
How are you going to do this?
track here. How am I going to do this? Well, I would say that we'll do this by saying that the staff have put immeasurable hours into working hard at putting together a logical and efficient budget. And there are a few changes since the last meeting, apparently. So I think on behalf of council, I think I would like to express our gratitude to staff for the diligence and effort that you've put into the budget, because I'm sure Councillor Colwell will concur and perhaps add her own comments. But it's really a pleasure for council to come with a document that is easily read, easily interpreted, and takes a lot of work off our plate. And it's truly appreciated. So I'll turn it over now to CAO White and Treasurer Duff for their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The department heads and Anlene and Gordon, of course, and his staff do most of the work on the budget. And it was new this year to have it in electronic format, but we did save a lot of time and a lot of trees by not having a budget binder. So it seems to be working. A couple of things happened, and we were lucky enough to have a little bit of time to get you with the most up-to-date reports. But what I wanted to do is just briefly show you in the reports the sections that had changed in the last today. So
when you do that, CAO White, could you name the page so that we
Yes.
can find it on eScribe?
As far as the presentation goes, and it's interesting, it looks like I have one of the older ones too. So, but I'll go to the presentation. And that's right here. And more or less what's changed in the presentation and what's changed is what is changed in the report. And that's this chart right here that has the operating budget and the red, and we'll go through this.
And what's the number of that?
That's in the presentation, and it was about 15 on your agenda, and it has the changes to the operating budget since our November budget meeting. So, but having said that, what we'd like to do maybe is just go through the presentation
Maybe
quickly
it's
here.
14, but it's real close. 14. Zip around and you'll see it real close.
Our budget slogan was to stay the infrastructure course, and I pointed out the comments from the last meeting, so I won't read them again. One is from Pierre Churro, and the other is from Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill is a favorite over the years of someone to comment, but I'd like to find some more interesting, not more interesting, but some new ones for you. Our schedule today is we start at 3 o'clock. We're a little bit behind at this point, but I think we should be able to catch up. We'll take about 15 minutes and do your update. We'd like to adjourn around 6:30 if possible. I know you have a closed session, a very important item on that. And then at 7 o'clock, at 7 o'clock we should go back into regular council, at least to hear from Mr. Nader. And then if we still have some budget stuff to talk about, we can do that. If you look at the council meeting, it's fairly short, so we should be able to get out of here in a reasonable time frame. I won't spend a lot of time on this slide. You've seen it a million times before. We're in the green section now, so we started our strategic plan. We're now in our departmental business plans. Those were those little documents at the head of each budget section that you reviewed. And if you recall from our November session, we tried to link in as many strategic directions as possible in those reports this year. We didn't have so many before, so but we weren't going to go through the operating budget in any great detail today unless you have some questions about it. Our vision and mission for the strategic...
COO, could you back up? Just the asset management. And that was a really big deal a year ago, type deal. How are we on that schedule?
About that. Okay, as you may recall, under the new federal gas tax regulations, the asset management plan that we have covers core assets, which is basically roads, bridges, water, sewer. We're required now to expand it to all the assets that we have under our control, fire, building, economic admin, and all that too. And when we mentioned in the operating budget that we're going to work with public sector digest citywide to assist with expanding the scope and also improving the quality of data that we have. So we have to have at least something done along those lines by the end of 2016, and then probably the actual project of looking at service levels and all that will go into 2017. And the other indirect thing is you have to sow constant improvement, that you're not just sitting back and saying that's done, you're working towards it. And that's part of, I'd say, every grant submission that we've done for the last 2 years. I've had to send in a copy or a link to our plan, and of course promote it on the website too.
So it's a work in progress
That's right.
till the end of 16. Okay, thank you.
Forever, really.
Yeah.
And we will reference it very briefly and later on here in the presentation. You remember in 2015 we did review our strategic plan. I would like to come back to you early this year, probably in February, obviously, with some minor amendments to the plan. We did have a public meeting and it was not well attended, but that's normal for a strategic plan early in its lifetime, I think. So we have 98 strategic directions in our plan, and that's the range of them from economic development to public works to environment. You should be fairly familiar with those. The cultural plan, again, we try to reference that in our budget document where we can. Another important document. The integrated sustainability plan. Interesting, that was a requirement of the province to have. And of course, we're now into new stuff with climate change and so forth. So I don't know whether anybody's really thinking about integrated sustainability community plans and how they link in with climate change, and maybe having only one. And these were mandatory documents. I know a lot of municipalities did not do them, and I don't think there were any consequences to not doing them. The fire master plan, Minto did, and it's an excellent plan actually, and we follow it. So Fire master plan, again, another one of those documents. It is probably due for an update. The good news for us was that was done in-house, and Khalees and Chris worked together on that, one of the first projects she did for us. So. And then our cultural plan, again, another one that for a small rural municipality we've had for quite some time, and our roundtable does a great job implementing that. And then the asset management plan is raised by the deputy mayor. The figure that we kind of float around, it only has roads and bridges, culverts and stormwater, water and wastewater, as the treasurer said. And the replacement value in that plan is about $6.9 million. Well, we have a little bit to say about our capital needs later on here, but we're just not finding we're able really to get to that level of capital every year. But we'll talk about that with you as we move forward. I won't go into a lot of the economic backdrop. I don't think a lot has changed since November. Possible one thing was that the federal government has talked about two things. One, running a little bit higher deficit, but still retiring it around 2018, which is what I think they were promising before. And then also a renewed infrastructure program. So part of our capital budget is to have some shovel-ready projects, or at least some engineering to get more shovel-ready projects, just in case we have something announced. And if you've had a good chance to look at that budget document, you could see we're already challenged to meet just $5 million in grants we have to borrow money and fund our share. So it'll be interesting to see what the federal program looks like. This chart we're probably going to have to change next year. Likely our share of the tax dollar is probably going up a little bit, and the education share is likely going down a little bit. So, but generally about 37% of your tax bill goes to us and the rest goes to other people. So more than half.
Pretty well. It was that last year.
It's been pretty, we've used about the same chart for some time.
Yep.
But actually when you get down to calculating it, likely our share has gone up a little bit. The education went down, and it's probably because that continues to drop. That budget just looks about where we spend our money, but primarily in public works and fire, they're kind of our biggest two, along with our administration. This is one of the ones I maybe wanted to talk to you briefly about. What that is. This chart has changed in your report, and all we've done here is do some recalculations and some updating to get to where the budget increases around just under 5% right now. So there's individual budget changes. They're generally minor. The largest one is in economic development, and the reason that I don't think that's mine.
It's somebody getting an email, that's for sure.
The economic development budget is up $40,000 as a result of a recommendation from economic development and planning, and that relates to increasing the funding for facade and structural improvement, mainly structural improvement grants. And they'll make a recommendation to you in their minutes tonight to fund another project, and we know for sure that there are others coming, so this would address that. So the bottom line where we sit right now with those changes are right at the bottom there. So where originally we were going to have $400,000 in tax supported capital, that has been increased to $500,000 to help us fund the initiatives that have come forward. And so we need to raise, instead of $4,484,000 roughly, we need to raise $4,579,000. So that's where we're budget to budget right now with this capital plan, around just under 5%. This chart we more or less gave to you last budget session. Two things that weren't in here was how the OCIF formula-based funding was. We get $131,000 a year to do with what we see fit in terms of roads. So in this budget, the capital budget, it's allocated $40,000 to updating the asset management plan and $91,000 to the 6th line repaving. And then our small community funds, merit-based, that was allocated. The connecting link wasn't. The connecting link, as a result of a report to council, you allocated to designing the full length of Clifford. So when we will be ready to redo that whole section of provincial highway, 2017, 2018 probably. So here's the capital work that the previous council did. This chart was in your last budget presentation, except for we didn't really have a good handle on the actual, and now Gordon's done a lot of work to get to that, and our actual is going to be around 4.8 million. So we had budgeted to do nearly 7 million, and so at the end of the day, 2015 will be roughly 4.8. So that means this first year and the last term of council, 20 million roughly of capital was done. 2016, we talked a little bit about those grants that we had. The reason for this slide is just to show you that just in the grants that we were successful so far in getting, we're already at $5 million. So what we've done is increase the tax supported capital funding to 500,000. We've moved the work on Brunswick Street, assuming we get that grant, off to 2017, but we will get started on the engineering and design this year. And Jane and Inkerman we're proposing to do this year. So you can see without very much difficulty, we have 5 million just like that, and only in a few projects.
Yes, CAO White and Treasurer Duff. The 2015 capital budget is way under. Is that totally on projects that we weren't able to complete, or is it, can you just give us a
Sure.
brief rundown of the major projects and how we did the budget?
Yeah. Now, mostly it's some carryover. A lot of it is Ann and James Street, which really didn't get underway till November. And that's part of our carry forward in budgeting there too. Also, when we did the first round of SCF, that was all of Laura Street in Harrison, right from William Street right down to the town limits. And so the part north of the lights, which is a very expensive part, about 800,000, that's going to be carried over till then too. And the 15 figures will probably increase a bit as we have to do holdback reconciliations, and we just got another progress payment related to 15 work there too. But it's primarily in those water and sewer projects and the road projects that are related. James Street also, if you drive by there, there's still paving and that to do there too. So those are the largest dollar amount of the under ones. I believe virtually all the recreation was done. Economic, I don't think we did quite as much work in the industrial parks as what we had forecast to, but that's where the big dollars, if you think of Ann, James, Laura, and James Street.
And how did we do towards budget on the major, say the downtown?
The large one, I'm happy to report that we're very close to budget on that one, and that's probably, I'd say, the largest project they've done since I've been here for sure. And it's come in pretty close. The part that we haven't got done is going to be a little higher than we thought a year ago. So that is one of our challenges. But the work that was actually done from the lights down to the town limits has come in very well. We still have to put the grant claim forward, and I'm going to set that up as a receivable too, because the bill just came in, I think, a day or two before Christmas, and we had a good 2-hour meeting with our engineers, and that is all the work that's been completed, and all billed, including the decorative lighting and everything like that. So, yeah. And Bride Road, that culvert came way under. That was just, we had a tender. Now that one we have related funding, but of course as you go down, the percentage will come down a bit too. So we're up on some and down on others, but
it is nice
yeah.
to see that downtown Harrison, which was certainly a major project,
yeah,
came in on budget.
yeah. So I certainly commend our public works, the engineer, and the county staff for helping.
I mean, that whole project was a well done project all the way through, between economic development and budgeting and everything. Something that as a council, certainly, and as a staff, we should be very proud of.
So 2016, this chart summarizes the plan as presented to you right now, it's 7.42 million in capital. And you might ask, well, why would you plan on doing 7.42 million when you couldn't do 6.9 last year? And you'll see later on in the slides, one of the reasons is we're actually trying through Moorfield to do a lot of the work now. So Moorfield is actually working on Ann Street. So I'm sure that's very unpleasant, but they are there. And also William Street, or from Elora, from Arthur to William, we'll get started right away. So that as soon as spring comes, I think we'll see Moorfield move on to that site, as well as finishing up James Street in Palmerston. So we think before June, those big projects that were carried over that Gord was referring to would be well on their way. So we think that we can focus our attention on the balance of the capital plan. So we're confident we can do 7.42, but frankly, on a normal year, without such a big carryover, I think 5 million is about where we're going to plan to be. The next gets into a project-specific capital. If we wanted to continue on with the presentation, I can do that. We're getting into specific projects. There's a little bit more information in the report if you want to get around the funding side and how Gordon has kind of designed the funding plan. We can do that however you'd like to handle it. But where we are in the presentation is departmental capital summaries for you. So if you'd like to go back to the report, we can do that, whatever your wish is, Mayor Bridge.
Well, first of all, let me apologize for being late. I was at another budget meeting, which was the county meeting, and went a little longer than I anticipated. There's a lot of discussion, and good news is, Mary Lou, we did come down on the number, but we haven't decided how we're getting there yet. We just told staff they're got to get there. So they're not happy. It's not a happy camp down there right now, but anyways. So unfortunately, it went a little longer, so I couldn't be here. So I don't know how far are you along, Bill? Like,
Mayor Bridge, we've just done the basic background information on the capital presentation. We haven't gone into the report too far.
I kind of like to go to the how you do it, funding it. That was part of actually, Gord, sort of the discussion that was happening at the county level. I think we're a little ahead of the curve. Maybe we don't. Our policy at the county level hasn't been really spelled out of what we would borrow for, what we'd look for reserves, and I think that through Councillor Caldwell and yourself and Bill and a little bit me, but we've kind of got that. Maybe get the council an idea of what the options are.
Yes,
how we get to the number, 100%. Right? And
it would
be
nice to see how we're going to fund the 7.4, and then before we go through item by item, and then we've got that in mind if we're looking at.
So I was going to refer to you, but if you feel the same way, like I'd like to see that, like how, because I know we were working on it and some of it got finalized, and I know you've been still working since I've seen the last one.
So if you go to page 45 on your agenda report, and I'll do the high level, and Gordon could get right into the nitty gritty.
And then we go to 33.
On the screen,
Eileen, would that be 7 under 7? Or no, C.
It's page 12 of the report. It's page 45 of your budget agenda.
Yeah.
44.
Under C, thank you.
So the first one, if you look at the screen and at the top of your page, those are the three figures that should guide our capital spending. The low end being the 2.8 million depreciation of the book value of our capital assets. The 6 million being the high end. It's actually 6.8 million in the capital asset management plan. And then our actual 2011 to 2015, around 4 or 5 million in there. So though we're actually, the treasurer has done such a good job, we're actually using these documents to help us with capital planning, which is exactly what the province intended us to do.
Right.
This chart I already went through in terms of the funding formula, and then this one here is the summary of how the funding would go. So the expenditures and where they are, and maybe Gordon, did you want to go through that one?
So I guess the major change from November is moving from 400,000 tax supported to 500. So we've got that in there. we're also looking at taking some from reserves, so slightly over $1 million from reserves there. Our grants, and again, this is kind of predicated on what we get on the OCIF application merit-based one. That's the Jane and Inkerman project, and that's probably the biggest thing we've got in there. So again, we can talk again if we don't get that grant, whether we proceed or whatever. But that's in there. Also, there's a little bit of federal gas tax, although we're using the majority of that to service debt, and some various other smaller grants, Save On, and the OCIF formula, which is the 90,000 for the 6 line. So that's all included in the grants. Then we have this big carryover. So that's our unexpanded capital. So we're starting the year with 2.2. That's going to go probably down as bills come in. And that is one of the things in this rough budget we're presenting. That's going to pretty much disappear. That's a huge source of our funding, again, and that adds to the cash flow challenges there too. Water and sewer charges, so that's funding capital from current water and sewer charges, so that's the 620, and a little bit of other donations in that too. So that's how we have the 7,420,000. This is the 7,420,000 of how we propose to pay for all of that too. And I've coined a new term, old borrowing and new borrowing. So again, this is Ann and James. Because of the late start, we had all the approvals from Infrastructure Ontario to fund that. But like the county, it's different. In a way, it's easier. You go, this is what council decided to do. They go, great, here's the money, thanks. But here, with infrastructure, you have to have the project completed before they go to debenture. So you're allowed to, like, almost like a draw on a line of credit, but you only do that as you incur costs. And our first bills didn't come in till the last week of December. So we're carrying over that authority to borrow, that $660,000. So that's our quote old borrowing. And then we have new borrowing to fund this level of capital expenditures of $760,000. And I know the mayor was interested to see, well, of our debt, how much is water and sewer and how much is regular. So in real rough terms, we have $7 million outstanding debt before this budget, and about $4 million of that is for water and sewer. And in general, what we've been trying to do is for road projects or vehicles and that, borrow over 10 years, for water and sewer, borrow over 20. And again, that's kind of included in our water financial plan and wastewater. So, and this kind of gives you an illustration of debts and reserves. Again, some of the reserves are not that liquid because that includes like shares of West Stereo and other, borrowing from operating. So, I think from an accounting point of view, we're looking good. Cash flow is a challenge for sure. That's where we're at. So, and we can definitely get into any of the nitty gritty projects that we have with. But that's a high level.
Any questions on that? Because I think that's important for moving forward. Water and sewer, as you know, I wanted to break it down because water and sewer, we're mandated under our consultant's plan to do certain things, and we have to put certain reserves away. But where tax levy reserves are the ones that we have to deal with on a basis.
That's right.
So is everybody kind of comfortable with how we've done that, and does it help?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the next section of your report, there's just a listing of miscellaneous projects, and then we go into the in later pages we go into the maps and the project by location. So there's Clifford, Harrison, Palmerston, and rural. So if we go back to the presentation, it kind of gives you a higher level view of things. If you want to discuss a specific project, we can maybe we can obviously do that too, and we'll have the department heads come up and talk to their particular areas. If it's okay, I'll go back to this section and we'll start with fire department. Fire department, the fire chief is away, but there isn't much here that's you haven't seen very recently. He is coming back Wednesday. The radio installation is going right away, so that is moving forward. He has reduced his equipment and gear requests a little bit this year, and the $555,000 for the aerial, the 2004 aerial, and the 2016 tanker were proposed. Now, we're actually banking on paying for the tanker next year. Is that fair to say, Gord?
Yeah, if it all comes through in 2016, we'll do like we did with the last truck purchase and fund it in 17 from the reserves tank. However, it has a 365-day delivery time. So as Bill says, quite easily that could slip into 2017 anyway, but we have it covered as if it's coming in 2016.
So that's included in your 7.4, even
Yes.
though, okay.
And question on that: Did we secure the ladder truck? Did we pay for it yet?
We haven't paid for anything, no.
So did we put any money in US before it dropped another 5 cents?
We haven't done that, no.
Huh?
It's going back up, but
Yeah.
I don't know when.
Is it?
We signed. It is. I promise, because I'm going away.
Oh yeah,
It has to go up.
I feel a lot better now. For some reason, I was thinking the opposite.
No.
but that's all right.
I had to buy my
Bill's going away, so it's going up. I'll let me know when it goes up.
I have to check with the chief, but he had said that it's secure,
Okay.
and he was making arrangements to have it come here. So,
Yeah.
as to when, like, I think the bill is based on that. Is that?
Yeah, they've done the commitment, and the last I heard, I believe that company is actually
Doing the exchange.
doing it and getting it to here instead of
All right. That's
Driving it
driving across
From one-
country. Yeah,
end of
Okay.
yeah.
North America to the other. So economic development capital is next. So if Belinda, I don't know if you noticed, I did landscape beneath your sign. So
That sign coming, Yolanda? Or are you just giving me false hope again?
No, that's Clifford.
Well, that's Clifford's sign. The MSW.
Oh, that
That's
other
not
one.
Clifford. The industrial park sign?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in Harrison or Palmerston.
Palmerston.
Industrial Park.
Is it happening?
Well,
Okay, no.
we're still waiting.
Okay.
we have an agreement with someone.
Well,
They
yeah,
have to
good.
sign
Well,
it.
that's good. That's good. That's good. I forgot to ask everything.
So
It is very nice.
one of the things that's different, I guess, for this capital budget is where it says entrance signs Harrison. That was in the tourism operating budget, and we moved it into capital. So
We always used to spend maybe 10 to 15
15.
a year, and they wouldn't last that long too. So
No, those two don't like to get close. Those two. Thanks, you got trouble there.
Gordon's doing feedback. I don't know.
Must be both males.
so that's moved over from here. So the tourism one operating should actually come down by that amount, right? So, and in brackets it says IPM. So we did the 2 signs in Clifford this year. The plan was to do Harrison in 2016 because the IPM is in Harrison, and then the following year we'll do Palmerston. So all the entrance signs will be replaced. It just happens we're doing Harrison this year because of the IPM. We have $12,500 in for our downtown committees. That's standard. We always put in $5,000 for each downtown. If you recall, the Harrison DRC made a motion to have $2,500 removed from their capital, moved over to operating so that they can do a big event in the summer. So that's why this is $12,500 instead of $15,000. The Palmerston Industrial Park sign, we had planned to do that this year, and we've had lots of issues trying to get a site nailed down for this. So we're on our last option, and the property owner is reviewing the agreement and has been since before Christmas. So we're just waiting for his feedback. And then last we threw in $75,000 for servicing the Palmerston Industrial Park if it's required, such as paving Frank Lambier Court if it fills up.
Just had a question for Belinda. One sign is going to cost $30,000. Is that what that means?
What do you mean 4 signs?
Well,
Palmerston
the
Industrial
industrial
Park
sign?
sign? Yes.
The one that's displayed there is going to cost 30,000.
Wow, why?
Installation, everything. Yes. Yeah, they're
But you
expensive.
can build a small building for $30,000. Like, that just seems really unreasonable.
So
That-
is it, for me,
That's the quote.
is it electronic?
Does it dance?
We had,
That's not electronic.
trying to remember if it did. We did have an electronic component underneath it. I can't remember if this one still includes it because it's going to be across the street and for hydro stuff. Each of the businesses on the sign then pay for their own sign. So this is just for the structure that says in Palmerston Industrial Park, and then each business has to pay for their element. But I can go pull the quote.
So that's over and
answer your
above the
question.
30,000? Oh my, we should get
But
in the sign building.
That's a one quote price. So we put a figure in the budget. It would have to go out to tender and proposal, and we may be able to get it at a more affordable price. I think there's a similar one in Drayton. And was that the price roughly in Drayton?
I have to go back and check to make sure the 30,000 doesn't include the electronic, like the digital portion.
Right.
I'm thinking. Sounds like it.
So the other thing to, if we don't want to do one of these projects and that, if you take it out, we need to check with Gordon, and he'll tell you where it's funded. So for example, if we took the Palmerston Industrial sign and said we'd like to do that next year, well, he may have funded it from carryover, so it might not help you on your rate, but you might be able to move another project in there. But if you would like us to, not do that industrial sign, it's been a challenge. Belinda's been working on it. I think it had some support at economic development and planning, but if you just take it out, it may not help you. Yeah. So if you want to pull one out, like say 75,000 Palmerston Industrial Servicing, you could make that 50,000 if you wanted, and we do less. But again, we need to check and see how that helps us on our rate.
Yeah, at present, all of the economic is funded from carryover. Now it only leaves us 21,000 at the end of the year, assuming everything goes as planned. So if we did take anything out, it would increase the amount of carryover to 17. So that would be the difference.
Mary Lou, and then.
So if this last prospective holder of the sign refuses, are we out of options anyway, and the sign's going to disappear?
Yes, if he doesn't agree, then we are out of options. But yeah, this is something that all the businesses in the industrial park have been asking for because people don't know where they are. The Tim Hortons makes it a little easier. They can say turn at the Tim Hortons, but otherwise people don't know that they're down there. So it was supported economic development. It was in last year's budget. So.
And is there any other options we can do to help out the tenants if we can't get the sign put up? Could we put up at least wave signs?
I don't think they would be big enough to see.
To do anything.
Yeah, mobile signs are kind of tacky looking and are temporary.
There's a county sign also coming through, and we had another update today at economic development, but it won't help this situation.
No.
But there will be opportunities for pay-as-you-go people to, like similar to what's on the highways where, there's maybe the Railway Museum and different things, that type of thing. But there will be criteria, and I think what they're leaning away from is any, commercial retail kind of things, unless it's like Maple Organic or something that basically
more
has
tourism.
The tourism thing.
Mm-hmm. But so. I can check and see if that electronic component's in there, because if it's across the street, we likely will not have that section. So.
Oh, sorry, Judy first.
So I just want to be clear. I really think a sign in the industrial park in Palmerston is really important, or advertising the industrial park somewhere close to the industrial park. I'm just astounded at $30,000 as a price tag. That's my challenge.
Signs are not cheap. Like those Clifford signs, like see that Clifford sign? They're $15,000 each. So.
And as I say,
signs aren't cheap.
at the county for new entrance signs into the county, and that they're running. I'll look at my budget again, but the major ones are running 15,000, just not a lot on them. And then the Wayfair signs coming through, or it's expensive. Yeah. For them to last, because that's the other problem. You want to make them last, right?
I feel like it would be nice to do the entrance sign to Palmerston too. This year, and I'm wondering if, and keeping in mind these are expensive, but I'm wondering if between the 30,000 industrial sign and the 75,000 industrial servicing, if you wanted us to report back to you on whether we can fit in the entrance sign and fund it maybe out of servicing, depending on what our needs are. But like Palmerston's going to be pretty close to IPM too. And I'm just wondering, it might not be a bad idea to try and work that in there. If, say, we don't get the sign off from the landowner, or he's had it now for 2 or 3 months, maybe we would want to put our funds into doing the entrance signs to Palmerston, and so they're all done.
First, and then Dave.
Through you, Mayor Bridge. Just a question. Is it the same manufacturer creating both signs?
No.
No.
Well, it depends, I guess.
Would there be an opportunity of, if you're doing all the signs to Palmerston and the industrial, would you get a better rate? If you went to one manufacturer and asked them
That
to
we'd
do
have
all of
to
them.
go, I guess, to if it is over 25,000, we have to do an RFP for the big one, the industrial park signs. When we did the Clifford ones, we did get quotes for those, and it was a different manufacturer than what quoted on that other sign.
Wondered if you're looking at
So we
5
would
signs
get
instead
other
of one,
quotes.
would you be able to get some sort of savings there or potential? Because that does seem like an awful lot for a sign.
Do and then Dave.
I was just going to ask quickly, the 60,000 for Harrison, we have 4 entrances.
4 entrances.
How many is there in Palmerston?
Well, there could be 4 there as well,
4.
if you chose to
So
do
we're
them.
talking 60,000, not 30,000. Okay.
Unless you, like in Palmerston, you could just do the 2 signs on 123 and not do White's Road and the one from Mapleton, the Drayton, whatever road it is.
Valley Road.
There'll probably be a new county one out by Bram Hills Corner, or just outside there, which will incorporate Minto in it.
It would be the Minto Gateway signs,
Yeah, gateway
but not
sign.
the community
not
signs.
for, say, Palmerston itself. So that will be coming in. So there'll be some, and that, whether that happened this year or not, I'm not sure. They're still playing with that one. David.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Bridge. I think signs are really important, and I know that you have to pay to get a good sign, and you want that sign to last 10 years or so. I don't think the question here is signs. I think it's likely the cost. That's a beautiful sign, and I really think that we do need a sign. My question is, what are the odds that our last ditch effort to get the sign, a place for the sign? Do you have a good feeling, Wanda?
When we met with the property owner, yeah, we had a good feeling. He had the agreement before Christmas, and we were supposed to hear back from him. So I followed up, and he hadn't reviewed it. So we're just waiting for him to review it. So I'm going to follow up again and see where he's at.
Plus the
with that.
fact we have the only place we could put it actually is on the Perth side of the road. So once
we have to
once
go
we
through.
get the approval from the landlord to pursue it, we got to get through the North
North
Council,
Perth and Perth County
right,
councils.
Perth County to get through. So it's a bit of time thing going on. I guess it's a placeholder in the budget in my mind, and we can have more direction later on. Like if we get to go to an RFP and that's what it ends up being, really, we might have to trim it down or do something. I think Councilor Durston is right. We need a sign of some sort. I think this council will still have an opportunity to, and it's not affecting the budget per se because it's already a carryover. We've been working on this sign for 3 years.
Over a year,
Yeah,
for sure.
well over a year. Anyways, and we keep getting fine spots to put it, and then we get, nope, that won't go there. So anyways, I'd like to keep it in because it's not going to affect the bottom line, keep it as a placeholder, and then have a review as to how fancy we're going to get here, and talk to the people that want to be on it, see what they want as far as how much they want to pony up as well, right? Because they're putting money into this sign.
Yes.
So, they may.
And they have to pay like a yearly fee as well
on top of
towards
that.
maintenance
Yeah.
of the sign.
So.
I would like to make a suggestion, though, as Bill had mentioned, that I'd like to see at least 2 Palmerston signs in time for the IPM. And is it a big issue to take 30,000 out of the Palmerston Industrial Servicing and move it to signs?
That would be paving the road.
I doubt it's going to be built up this
Yeah.
year. It will be late this year if it is. We're sitting on, 4 lots available yet.
So we maybe could even move 60,000.
It may not be full.
Because it would be nice to have all of the towns done in the IPM.
Okay.
We'll leave that with you if it can be done.
Yep.
I believe so.
The next one, Mayor Bridge, members of council, is facilities capital.
Yeah.
It's quite shocking to see him using a.
Yes, he's
A device.
quite into the modern
Excellent.
stuff now.
Makes me feel good.
Twice in a row. Tell him he had to.
He volunteered, which was.
I'm enjoying
I
it.
don't
Councillor
know.
Turk.
Good job.
Okay, I guess we're gonna look at Palmerston first. You guys have a little slide there. We're starting at looking at the arena. We have $154,000 budgeted for upgrades in the arena. Those upgrades will include plumbing and electrical, new lobby windows, doors. We're looking at flooring, redoing some work on the ceiling, some work on the showers. I know there's one person in front of me that'll be happy to see a water softener added, and some work on the downspouts outside. With this budgeted money of $154,000, we are hoping to get a little bit of upwards of $30,000 in return through a donation and possibly some grant money. Would there be any questions about the upgrades at the Palmerston Arena?
Nope.
Other than that, I did take my little twins skating, so I actually got into some of those dressing rooms. Boy, they're tiny. Maybe when I was in them as a kid, they seemed bigger.
In 70,
Not as many of me can get in them.
Did that wrong.
I don't-
in 1978, when they built them, they were one of the biggest dress rooms around.
Well, there you go.
That's something.
But they are
The
tiny.
kids are bigger now.
Yeah, they are.
And I know in Harrison we've got an issue with the girls playing hockey now in dressing rooms. Is that in Palmerston as well? The same issue?
Palmerston has more rooms.
It does have more rooms. Okay.
We will be having some discussions with the minor hockey and the user groups in general at the arena, just to make sure what we're doing is satisfactory to their liking. We do have a little bit of money, $3,000 budgeted towards the swimming pool, just again to what we'd like to do is upgrade. We put some drainage in last year that seems to be working quite well. It's working a little better than what we hoped, so we'd like to directly wire a sump pump. Originally, we had put it in just to ensure the groundwater disappeared as we drained the pool to clean it, but that groundwater just kept coming back with a damp summer, so we'd like to tidy that up and give it a place to go throughout the course of the year so the guys don't have to do it manually. We do have some money that we're budgeting for the Barb Rate Ball Diamond. The last couple of years we've had some really cold winters, and the backstop and dugouts in that particular diamond have actually started to lift out of the ground. They've been there for a number of years. They're getting old, so we've had some requests to replace them, and we do have cement coming out of the ground at the posts and whatnot, so it should be done. Money budget in the parks, Heritage Park, we're hoping to do a little bit of fencing along the train tracks this year. Again, we discussed it in the operations that we'd like to, start using the assets that are there, and to get the hand cars out. We've had some discussion with Mr. McEachran from the train museum, and by doing this, we'd be able to monitor the hand cars without having to worry too much about liability if we did this fencing.
And on that, you're happy to know the little train has been repaired, and the reason why we hardly made the parade was running on, never been serviced or tuned up in its life, and it was running on a third of the unit or whatever, and that's why all the smoke was coming back. So fumes. So it has been adjusted, and the smokestack now comes up off out of the top. So we're hoping to use that more out too in the parks, because it's a great little asset, but we couldn't put people on it because it was dangerous.
The municipality's invested quite a bit of money into the assets there, and I think it's important that we do our best to use them.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, Al, the fence you talked about, are you talking about along Albert Street or along the edge of the track property?
It'd be along the edge of the tracks, and if you envision the solar shed,
at the back down by Albert Street.
Yep. No, exactly.
My directions are absolutely terrible, so we're going to call it the east side of the tracks.
That's good.
And it's
South.
good. It's opposite where the museum is.
Yep.
Okay, and it's going to run up. There's a storage shed that is kind of adjacent to the train museum
Correct.
itself.
Yep.
So it's going to run up to there.
Okay.
So when the hand cars come out, say at a farmer's market or on a bit party in the park, things like that. Generally, they don't run them past that area, so we just have to monitor one side of the tracks that way and make ssure that nobody jumps out in front of them.
Thanks, Mayor Bridge. So, Al, you alluded to the Barbright diamond. The other diamonds are in pretty good shape. The back one,
Yeah, they're in better shape.
they're definitely.
That's correct. The immediate area is the backstop and the dugouts. And we will be maintaining the roofs. We'll be lifting them off and putting them back. The other project out in the Palmerston Parks is we're going to look at changing over some of the lighting again through the Save On Energy grant. We currently have some 100-watt fixtures we'd like to downsize to about a 21-watt fixture. There's 58 of them, so hopefully that'll provide us some good savings on our hydro bills.
That the lights along the trail.
That's correct, Councillor Elliott. The bill.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I wasn't watching. I was looking. Hit me in the head.
The next slide, if I may, it's not the world's clearest slide, but this was received this morning. If you look at the picture, that's roughly the grade right now of, so they used to slide down it during Party in the Park, or was that was what it was called. And this is a plan drawing of a waterfall that the Lions are proposing. So it would begin along the base of at the top of the hill, and it's kind of almost a T shape or an L, I guess backwards L shaped, and would have a pond area down at the near the footbridge, if I'm not mistaken. So they're proposing to donate that to the town. Their cost is about $25,000. It's probably closer to $45,000-$50,000 in work. We would need to, I think we should formally have them present this to you or to BRAC, so you can get an idea what it is and what it looks like. And I know most of the staff haven't probably even seen this drawing. It just came in this morning. So they're planning for this for next year. It would be very attractive addition to the park. Some of the things we want to talk about is maintenance and operating and all that kind of stuff. But it feeds, it's self-feeding, and it needs to be filled up from time to time due to evaporation or whatever. But yeah, there's water lines that are nearby, a stormwater outlet. So I think they've done some work with our public works people to find out where the services are, and they've had a professional design it. Apparently there's something similar in one of the Guelph parks. So
Riverside.
Very exciting
Riverside Park
project. So yeah. So that's just a little picture of that one.
And go ahead.
Just this all started with Eric Gray passed on, and his brother Gary decided he would like to donate something in memory of his dad, and which is Eve. So this was kind of came from there, that they'd like to make this waterfalls, and they're going to have seating around it and stuff like that. So kind of a quiet area. I think it's going to be quite an asset to the park and to the community. So, I can't picture it in the drawing, but Bob Emerson's the chair of it. He's given me a pretty good idea what it's going to look like, and it's going to feed down like a river and then fall down to one area and then fall to another area and then go up to a reservoir. A pond is the reason they wouldn't have a pond is it was the depth of the pond.
Insurance.
Yep, and lifeguards and all that stuff.
So yeah, it's going to recirculate and gathering.
Yep.
It's going to be a nice added feature. We're going to finally have our fountain in the CN Park up and running this spring, I believe. So yeah, it's in the budget, and so this would be another feature, and we really have to start leveraging the park itself as a tourist, and along with the museum. And I see there's money in there too. And on the museum, the county has come up with a new, if it gets passed in the end of the month, they've added a half a body to the museum and archive staff to be outreach people. So I've already booked them for this, so that they would get into our museum, our railway museum, and help our people there and design that and do it as you would see it down in the Wellington County Museum. So they're really excited in getting at. Amy said the other day when I was down at the tattoo thing, she was all excited about getting a chance to get at that museum and work with Bob and some of the other people that are going to come on there. So this is really going to be, again, another little add-on to the park that already really has a great attraction value to it. But if we can get that museum up and running and make it into a destination place, it'll just help the Palmerston downtown starting to be revitalized. Maybe a couple more stores down there, niche type stores. So I think this is going to be the draw. So I'm looking forward to all these neat things.
Mhm.
Any other questions on the Palmerston stuff? Nope. If you have a chance, they've got wheels on the cook car now. The
Yes.
wheels are on the cook car, and they'll move it around to the other side. That again, it gives you another living exhibit that people are going to be able to hopefully next year go in and look in and see what people used to be on the railway with the caboose as well. So looking forward to it.
When you say wheels, that's undercarriage.
Yeah, like the actual wheels, so it can be moved around. Yeah.
It's on. The train's on the track.
Yeah, it's on the track, actually. Yeah, it's all moving along now. We can just send it all the way down to nowhere. Back.
Down to the
Solar panels and back. If we can switch it, we can do that.
Nobody letting me know what was happening.
They'll probably want us to get a license to be running a railway now.
Jeez.
Okay, on to the
Keep moving, Al. Keep moving.
Onto the Hairston Capital. We do have $45,000 budgeted for arena upgrades. They include plumbing, electrical upgrades, a little bit of some upgrades in the curling club in terms of lighting. We're looking at doing a little bit of work in the shower areas on the PA system. We're looking at putting in new dressing room benching, constructing a referee's room, which is going to be added on. It's going to be made part of the existing curling chiller room. There's plumbing that exists. Our building, Terry from the CBO has been in to look at it. The TSSA is okayed at being there, so we're looking at upgrading the flooring in the auditorium entrance, similar to that of the arena. We do need a new floor scrubbing machine or swing machine, and we're hopefully purchasing a new fridge. Were there any questions on the Hairston Arena upgrades? Okay, we do need a new pool pump in Hairston. We've budgeted to install a frequency drive pump. There is a little bit of money that's available through the Save on Energy grant for this, and hopefully it'll save on our operation costs at $15,000. We're budgeting $5,000 to put some lighting in the Hairston train station parking lot. $3,500 for a loader for the tractor. And in the same breath, we're hoping sometimes with the smaller tractor that it can be shared with the works department. So if there's some small jobs over at the cemetery, they'd be welcome to use it. And we've got a little bit of money put aside just to complete restoration at the trailer park and move the firefighters monument over to the Hairston Medical Center and naturalize that area. The total for Hairston with what I've spoken on, including the arena, comes to $72,500. We've also budgeted some money to redo the ambulance station floor, the EMS building flooring. They had some issues with some tiles lifting last year. That would be funded through the rent of the building for $6,000. And we do have some money put aside for upgrades at the Harrison Medical Clinic of $15,000 that would be funded through their corporation.
Al, how is our pool in Harrison? Is there a lifespan you expect it will be, or what are your thoughts there?
Well, it's an older pool. I do believe it's 75.
Earlier than that, actually.
Is it?
I was part of that Kinsman group that built that. What year was the arena?
77.
Right around there.
Yeah, pretty close.
75 rings a bell because the plaque was redone. Councillor Turton had the plaque redone just 40 years.
40 years now.
So it's getting up there. We've done some work on the inside plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the pool's a little bit older, and it's something we do need to take a look at. We have started putting some money aside in reserves for the swimming pool through Matt's budget, and I do believe Matt's had some contact with the Kinsman Club in Harrison about potentially down the road, seeing if we could partner in a project for kind of a major renovation.
So there was a bit of a water problem, and that's kind of been solved now.
We did have the pool pressure treated pressure tested a couple of years ago, and then Perry Wallace mentioned that it was fine. So.
Okay.
And on the Kinsman, I mean, they had asked me when they gave their last installment for the Tannery Park, and they said that they'll keep in touch with yourself and with Matt about projects going forward. They obviously, the pool is, as Deputy Mayor Faulkner said, it's something they did years and years ago, and they've got some passion for it. So I think make sure you keep in contact with them as we go forward, and if there's going to be a capital fund started or whatever, make sure that they want to be involved. I know that.
Okay. Wonderful.
If you, Bridgel, what's your plan for the long-term plan?
Long-term plan, I would just tidy it up, plant some grass seed, and maybe an extra tree. It could be used for camping. We do still have some campers use the area, but I don't see any major plans at this point.
And just to add to what the facilities manager said, it depends. We have 2 people left, and I suppose through PRAC we could talk about whether we wanted to make it something other than naturalized or get into things like camping or whatever. But I feel like at some point we should do a drawing and a concept for you to have a look at, or just choose to naturalize it if that's what you want to do. But I don't know that we budgeted this year for the drawing or not. You know, maybe next year we can look at bringing forward a proper landscape drawing for the whole thing.
Well, you know, you look at the Palmerston, like the Lions and the town's done over there. 10 years ago, whatever, 15 years ago, there's a lot of things. What exactly are we going to do with that piece of property? So if somebody steps up and says, listen, we'd like to do something there or whatever.
And as was the Tannery Park, I wonder if council wanted us to explore that administratively, maybe a resolution asking our recreation group to meet with maybe the Kinsman and see whether they wanted to start planning for the future of that whole facility. Wouldn't be a bad idea if you feel like the Kinsman might be willing to start talking in that direction. I would think of the pool, the trailer park, the whole facility, the whole area could be looked at. And maybe Kinsman wants to get involved to the degree of the Lions or to a lesser degree, or but we should open the dialogue up. Maybe just look at the whole thing, because it could be something.
Yeah, and I think we've got. It'd be nice. We have one that we're trying to work on. But the other one has probably another, we gave them 10 years. I don't see, unless something major happens, we've probably got 4 years left. They would probably hang out to the end by the sound of it, but it doesn't hurt to get looking at it as far as that goes. I mean, at one time, the thought was, you have all the services there, kind of there. You could easily do a temporary RV type park. People can come visit, whatever. We do have a group comes twice a year, do they not?
That's
Al?
correct.
RVs now, they kind of just go in the parking lot and they use our facilities. And so that's a possibility, but it has to be something that doesn't affect the floodplain. And so you can't be anything permanent. It has to be something on the, that, again, I wouldn't think that's a problem with the Maitland, but I would never know for sure because you'd have to get the people out if there was a, flood situation coming at us. But
that's probably something we should look into before we contact.
Before we, otherwise, For now, I think it's important that we keep it looking not too bad, like seed it, naturalize it, whatever, so that at least the people when they're driving
just
by.
seeding that area this year.
So I just want a definition of naturalizing. Does that mean we plant the grass and then we don't cut it?
Yeah, the idea would be to do a like we did here, and plant maybe 500-600 trees and get some natural grasses underneath it and hope it all grows up so we don't have to, or wait for it to grow up and then we don't have to maintain it. That would be one option.
There are some plants too.
It does kind of look grubby for a while when you
Can't
naturalize
just
for
plant
sure.
them. Yeah, because you'll have weeds and grass taller than trees.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you get all sorts of things you don't want if you don't pay attention to it. So it's not, naturalizing takes time and it takes effort to do it right. So yeah, and we're not done out here yet. I think we have to
More work
do some more stuff out here with the county.
Yeah, definitely.
back in the spring. And
There's some nice perennials and wild grasses that can be planted. Councillor Dirksen, no maintenance.
Still nice to have some cut areas.
If
Otherwise,
you,
it just
in
looks
some
like a mess.
areas.
Just looks like a mess otherwise.
I agree.
did you want to refer the issue to Prac and
well, sure,
maybe
I think Prac should be looking at this. Probably.
with the kinsman? And, yeah.
Yep.
We need a motion, or if you do a motion, it helps us remember. Is
Okay,
all.
well, I'll make a direction. Moved by Councilor Turton, seconded by Deputy Mayor Faulkner. All in favor? Okay.
So just on that, if I could just put out a little idea, is there a high school class that would be interested in kind of that? Maybe Kelp would be interested in kind of looking at. Doesn't have to be any requirement that we follow through, but it would be maybe a project that they could look at and
Back to Kelp.
some drawings. I don't know.
I was also wondering in the back of my mind about Horticulture Society. No, I don't know how vibrant it is anymore. It's
Well,
like all they're getting aging
They're all old.
populations. I know,
My
but
wife's the president. How old is that?
It- I beg your pardon. That's very useful.
doesn't watch this.
Oh,
I
good.
wanted to find out. I don't think she ever watches.
We're going to tell her to.
But I'm sure somebody does.
But
tell her.
yeah, I'd be a little worried that they take on much more. But we could always ask them.
Even to ask them about planning and
Yeah.
to look at it. They did a beautiful job with the park where we're going to move the memorial out of it. It's a shame to lose that park. If you could do something and get as many groups involved, and then the whole town sort of feels involved in the process, because it is an area that could be, as Mr. Turton said, Councillor Turton, the park in Palmerston is beautiful to look at now and is a real asset for the community. I think there's an opportunity to do something similar with this area.
I think if they were able to get like some kelp help and stuff like that, it's the lifting and
Sure.
and all that. But certainly they would be able to give us direction on the on plantings and.
Oh, we got a hand.
I was just going to mention, we have partnered with the University of Guelph.
That's
and
right.
State Architecture
Yep.
students.
Oh, there's a good idea too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point,
That's
Linda.
a good
Yeah.
one.
We've got a great egg society too. So we're-
Yeah, and the Ag Society that likes to get involved in
there's a lot
around
of
that area.
possibilities. So we'll leave it with us and we'll look into it.
And the other thing I was wondering is, while we're looking at these pictures with very little information, you're looking at an accounting. Is that in our package someplace or?
In the budget report at the very end, there should be something like this to look at.
It's just kind of hard to look at both at the same
Both.
time, but
Yeah.
okay. That's what I was trying to find, and I wasn't
Oh.
successful. So
Um,
I knew that I had read some more detail, but
At the very end of the report should be in the spreadsheet, Gordon's spreadsheet
Yep.
should be in there.
Okay,
what page are you working on? Do you know?
We're following the presentation, but did you want to look at the other to see the spreadsheet?
I just like to see the more detail as well. In my perfect world,
Before you
I'd love
leave
to
that-
see the nice pictures, and then the next page, I'd love to see the detail, and then go on to the next subject with the nice pictures and then the detail.
All right.
Before you leave that area, refresh my memory, please. KELP, the acronym KELP stands for
You got me beat.
Community Environmental. I got that
Leadership
much.
Program.
Leadership
Leadership, that's it,
Thank
leadership
you.
program. Yep. I don't know why, I never went to their things and always talk to leaders.
So on the screen on page 58 of the agenda report
Lays it out.
are the details. So it goes to presentation, and we've kind of been all around the map on presenting the capital budget over the years that I've been here. So I think maybe what you're saying is we could do something like the operating and do the nice picture and the plan and then the detail behind.
Yeah, I'd love
Because
to.
here you got to look up two things.
Yeah.
And
It's hard when you're on the machine.
it's a good point.
Yeah, it just
Okay.
continuous improvement, right?
Yeah. Okay, now I got to get back to the other one.
Clifford.
That's the problem.
Okay, we'll talk about Clifford. Clifford won't take too long. We've budgeted for the arena upgrades. We're looking at a little bit of plumbing and electrical again, a refrigerator, some downspout repairs, a new floor scrubber, and redoing the entrances in the arena and auditorium. That'll come to a total of $22,500. And we're budgeting $5,000 for park improvements, which will include a little bit of park lighting and a pathway down to the new ball diamond. So the total capital in Clifford would be $27,500.
Pathway is just you need something that's a little more accessible than what is there. And I know they wanted stairs, but that's not accessible. So stairs would be the worst thing you could do. Put stairs down, then anybody with a little cart or walker or whatever wouldn't be able to get down. So we just want to make it a little safer, a little bit better.
A little smoother surface down
Yeah,
the existing
to get down
roadway
there.
as well.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
Are there any questions on Clifford Capital? Some of the miscellaneous items that we have are, we do have some money budgeted for trails of $40,000. Again, I think that's done in conjunction with the county and the grants. We have some work we're going to do on the compressors. I've got $16,500 budgeted. The compressor work would be at the Palmerston and Clifford arenas. Of that money, we did budget $10,000. What we're going to be doing, when we take the heads off the compressors this year, is we're going to be pulling a piston and taking a look at the heads on the machines. So if there is an issue with the heads, that $10,000 would be used. If not, they get put back together and everything's fine. With the oil changes, we haven't noticed any filings in the oil, metal filings in the oil, so I'm kind of hoping things go nice and smooth, but just in case, we'd rather have some money put away. When we have $5,000 to put some new flag poles up, in particular one over at the Harrison Cenotaph and in Clifford as well.
And on the Harrison Cenotaph, in the Clifford Cenotaph too? Is that where this going?
Yeah.
It's really hard because those old poles that are there, you can't lower up even anything. You can't bring them down. It's very difficult, time consuming for people to change them because there's no internal mechanism. So it's really,
We need them.
we're really lucky though too. We got out here, we got sort of board from the county. We'll give them back. They were asked for them, but from the old police station in Palmerston. So we got those free. So other than our,
I like free.
yeah, free's good, but I think we have to upgrade those too.
We do.
Certainly. Right. And we got new ones at the Palmerston Cenotaph. Again, county put new ones in there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Good stuff, Al.
Brian, they're bringing you up early this year. Usually you're the last one, and
Usually I'm dragging behind.
And
Not so.
Okay, you can't,
Nothing's changed.
you can't even spend. You can't even spend all your money. What is the problem?
Well, we're looking at Clifford, and I gotta give credit to our new hairstylist in Public Works, Mike, which can't be here today. On the great job you've done on this. As you can see in the legends,
Beautiful hair.
What?
Mike.
What? Getting hair done tonight?
Well, Mike's got beautiful hair.
oh, cool. Like Justin Trudeau, is that the idea?
Mhm.
But
What's
look
going
at
on?
his hair.
It's a quaff.
Lost control.
All over here.
Take that. You want to take that over there?
okay, further, Clark Street and James Street, we got $50,000, and that's this top coat asphalt carried over from last year. Ann Street is also a carryover. You'll see in the green that's through the development on Ann Street, 3 blocks.
could I ask a question in respect to that, Brian? The infrastructure underneath Ann and Clark, there's no danger that we're going to have to rip those back up again. And I'm thinking of, do we need to reassess, I guess, priorities and whatnot, especially with the situation of the pipes?
Well, we've included that
collapsing.
in our last report to council there to rip the mains out to replace those mains. So that's
On Clark.
on Ann Street.
On Ann.
Yeah.
Right? I knew there was on one of the street.
Yeah, Clark and James already have the base coat asphalt on the water mains there. So
Yep.
it's just top coat asphalt going on.
Now, Ann Street is a grant. Is that correct or no?
No,
Ann's the
no.
old borrowing. And
Okay.
in fact, we defined them even in the 2015 budget as water and wastewater projects as opposed to road projects.
Okay.
If I may, Ann Street also has, we have an agreement of purchase and sale with Rick Molinar for 6 of the residential lots. This would open up, I believe, another 5 in a block. So we would, and we also have to bring forward, there's some interest in semi-detached, which means we might get a little bit more money for our lots. So we're going to pre-service so that we can accommodate semis if council amends the zoning. I know Mr. Molinar maybe would prefer semis, and he's prepared to pay a little bit more for the lots to do that. So
Okay. Next is Queen Street, the section that that would be east of Ann Street, because the water line has to come around and hook onto the hydrant on just around the corner there. So we're going to do the whole road resurface at the same time. That's where that 35,000 comes from. And then on Lower Street, the main street, the 400,000 is for our engineering for the design work and the layout of ready to dig. And that's all we have with Clifford. Any questions?
Just on the Lower Street infrastructure, that's a connecting link.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that we haven't seen any, Gord, I don't believe we haven't any connecting link. Has anybody got any of the new money yet, or?
No.
No.
Actually, it's due the end of this month.
Okay.
And I guess.
Yeah.
We have the engineers and our well-coiffed road superintendent too. They're working on that too. The trick is included in the regulations. No matter what project you do, you have to put a condition rating for all the connecting links within the municipality. So we're trying to gather all that information, but that is due in less than 2 weeks now. So that's where we are with that.
the RCR values, as they're called, are in your charts there. It's, if you want to look, the 5, 6, 7, 4 is really bad, and 7 is still needs replacement. So.
And that RCR is a road condition rating.
They want traffic counts.
And traffic counts have to be done.
Really?
As you're going through this, Brian, would you mind just telling us which projects are dependent on whether or not we receive a grant?
Oh,
Sure. Yep.
Like, is Alora Street dependent on a grant?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So if we don't receive the grant for connecting links, we won't be doing the project. Okay.
but it will be design ready and ready to.
Right.
And on that, Mary Lou, I think, which I was really shocked, and I know the council remembers, but when we were trying to get connecting links back, I kept thinking, like, why isn't there more noise out there? And we all, every time we would go and talk to ministers and do all this stuff. As it turns out, out of 448, I don't know how many municipalities in Ontario now, 448, only 77 of them have connecting links. So you wonder, you kind of know why. That was a program they thought, well, we're not going to get too much pushback. We might as well let that one go. So they're saying 14 million or 15 million. So we may have to get ready, but wait for our opportunity, because I'm not sure that everybody will rush into the program, but eventually all these, they'll go with the ones that need it done first and most. And we'll be up against other municipalities that, if they're worse shape, or if they have a bridge, there's another one. A bridge will probably take priority. Traffic counts and stuff. But this is a busy road, so we should be right up there. So hopefully we'll be ready to roll.
And it is in rough shape.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's bad.
So let's say 525,800 on Ann Street and Queen Street, and 50,000 on Clark and James. And that's top coat asphalt, as I stated before. And you'll see the picture in the bottom with all the snow. That's them working on Ann Street.
I like the maps with the description on the needs, and I hope people will actually look at those, because we keep talking about the fact we're not just out there, oh, maybe we'll do so and so. This we have a plan. This is the plan we're supposed to be trying to work towards. So I like the way that's right there. And now if Judy gets the actual dollars will be right there too, Judy. So that'd be nice that you can, you go right from the public works capital, I can see how it would work, right to where we've got the needs and why we've said this one is to be done, to the numbers. It makes a lot of sense. And then we're not running. And if somebody's pulling that off the website to look at it, everything's right there. It's pretty self-explanatory. Oh, sorry. Are we moving on, or are you still back at?
Well, I just had a question about this road closed. It's obviously the same. There's a nice summer picture of the same road. Is it closed because of snow, or is that?
No, they were working on Ann Street.
They were still working on it, and it's okay.
Yeah, so it's under construction, and it is closed.
Okay.
And then they'll put one where it really looks like in the summertime.
Yeah.
I like the summer one.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were still
Still
on
working on that.
So you're not building a dome?
No,
Yeah.
that's LRT.
Roundabout.
That's what the star is, the red star.
Move on, or?
Yep.
Then we jump over to Harrison. The Laura Street, this is a carryover also from last year's project. This is from the lights north of William Street. You have 945,000 in there. And then Queen Street South, which is left in gravel from last year, it's also a carryover. It's going to be a base coat behind Murphy's.
Oh yeah, Jim Mark. Yeah.
Just a question on that road behind Murphy's. Like, at one time that was still part of the township.
Still is, but we're all one.
Well,
One now, yeah.
we're one. So, like, there's no infrastructure under that road.
Yeah.
There is now.
Put that in.
We just did it, right?
We did water, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
Yep.
right. That's right.
Hooked everybody up.
But what about sewers?
Sewers are behind there too.
Yep.
How far the sewer goes right to just before the last house, right?
We'll call Glenn.
They had to pay for that. They were on septic, as I recall.
They were on septic, but they paid for it, and
It was semi
but
happy about it.
do you just? Well, Mary Lou, do you have some?
Just a quick question, it's probably a silly one. Development needs, what does that mean? Is that we're starting to plan for it?
The in the case of Clifford, it was Rick Molnar,
Okay.
and then the other green ones, William and Brown, were Brad Schwinn. So we have a developer that's interested in doing something. So we call it a development needs. The infrastructure is going in partnership with them or paid for by them in part or by buying lots. So that's the development needs.
Okay.
So the ones in Harrison, the one on James Street, James, right? That John Street.
John, yeah.
John James. John, we have to report back to council on the Class EA we started for the expansion of the Harrison Industrial Park. But in 2 words or 2 paragraphs, I guess, in order to get fire protection out to that area and improve fire protection for all of Harrison, it means improving our water mains, upsizing them. And if you remember, when I presented that about a year ago, there's this huge cost for a lift, almost like a reservoir.
Reservoir, yeah.
To get to, and you didn't like that, and neither did we. And so we've been back to the drawing board. And so what it looks like we can do is, as we replace these roads, we increase the water main size, and that'll improve fire protection for all of Harrison. And when we mean we don't need that expensive thing to service our industrial park. So that's why John Street is showing like that. And then the other one up there is green around the senior school development. So Lawrence Street, they would extend at their cost, and then we agreed with them as part of that purchase that we would link in our services of William, and that would actually service a lot across the road too. So we could have 2 future subdivisions there. So that's why it's shown in green as a.
So the John Street one of $1,020,000.
Yes.
That is future industrial park developers that would pay that $1,020,000 down the road.
The way we've done that is we've done that work, water and sewer work. We've pre-serviced it, and then there is some lot sales. But what it's all pointing to, I think, is in time, we're probably going to need to increase our industrial lot price to help offset some of these costs.
Yeah.
So, but we haven't got a lot in the budget for Harrison Industrial this year. But part of that was the existing John Street, dropping it down so that we got gravity flow to that new area, and we didn't have to have a pumping station. So, but I have to bring that all back to you. We've met with the consulting engineer last year, and we're due for another meeting with him to finalize that EA, so that for 10 years we can, when council wants to go ahead with it, they can. But in the meantime, we'll start doing some of these water mains, and like the Allure Street one went from an 8 to
a 12.
8 to a 12 inch.
We upsized the Allure Street water. We'll be doing the same north of the lights. Every time we go in, we make sure it's going to be upgraded.
What is arterial needs?
Arterial. Those are your arterial roads. Those are your main.
Oh, okay. Arteries.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, as far as, it's great to have this here, but we had the discussion too, this council, about probably the future industrial growth is going to be in Palmerston for a little while. I know it's not a rush to, because you know we've got the certified site, maybe. The certified site done?
Almost.
Okay, almost. Okay, well, let me know when it's done. I won't ask again. Anyways, but we've got that and other lots up in. So I see this as, it makes sense to have it there to identify the fact that it's going to be fire protection, help us get through that whole thing eventually. So when you're doing, if you have to do something on John, fix it right.
Yeah.
So I totally understand why we need water and sewer out to the far reaches of our industrial parks. I get that. But I guess I question a little bit the fire protection piece, because can we not haul water if we can't? Like, do we have to have it out of a hydrant that's right size and so on? Like, is that a responsibility of ours because we have the industrial park?
Well,
because I guess I'm just thinking of like Harkness is further up Highway 9, and they rely on trucks to come and bring water to them.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, Terry might be able to touch.
Industrial buildings, depending the size of them, and that's part of the engineering consideration that we looked at for the expansion of the industrial park, having sprinkler systems in them. If you got a building on fire with a sprinkler system, the first thing that the fire trucks do is hook up to the sprinkler system to boost the pressure. You can't really boost the pressure as well from a porta tank than you can from the actual mains.
Okay.
So it's all about volume and trying to get sufficient flow based on the engineering calculation. So I did talk to Chris about it, and we just, even that close to town, we can't shuttle enough water.
Well, do you want to fill in? Because there's a few other.
Right. In an urban area, your standard is a little higher. And what would happen if we had a major fire with some of the mains the way they are is you would have significant drops in pressure, as I understand it, in other areas. So as part of our due diligence, as we go and do these projects, what the engineer was suggesting was we can improve the whole system by just going with slightly bigger mains. If we were laying out Harrison today, I think we would probably lay it out with larger mains, right? I think many of them are 6-inch or smaller.
There is a lot of 4-inch water mains in Clifford or in Harrison that have to be upgraded.
So
4 just does not cut it anymore.
And so in some key areas, you go to an 8 or bigger to get this fire. So it's kind of a long-term due diligence. While you have the street open, let's go to the slightly bigger main, and then hopefully in the future, if we do have a big fire, we're not dropping everybody's pressure down to near nothing to fight it. So yeah.
And you have also Wayne and Mike and Mark are all working together as one, so everything's done at once. So if he's got water mains that need to be done under a road, you got to make sure your sewers are ready to go to and the road surface. So we try to narrow it down.
I believe it's true that the insurance for an industrial building will be cheaper for them because they have that fire protection there. So in order to ask industry to come into our community, that's an asset we should have to be able, or so they won't go elsewhere where they can get it's cheaper for them to operate. And part of that is, I guess it's quite a difference in insurance from what if I remember correctly. Because I think that was part of something that was happening in Clifford a few years ago.
So have we ever done a like a real study of the cost of the growth? Like what is the cost of? And I know we try to sell our land at a reasonable price to attract people to come and so on and so forth, but we have to make sure that we're not doing that to the detriment of the town as a whole. So I just wondered, like, what do we know what the cost of our growth? Like, have we ever done that study to say what the cost of our growth is as opposed to what we're selling it for and all that kind of stuff?
We are doing it for the industrial expansion. So in there you will know the true cost of expanding out there. Okay. But even if you chose not to expend those funds, we would be recommending that you still replace with larger mains as we go in Harrison.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense to do that.
But I think we have the Economic Development and Planning Committee was looking at expansion in Palmerston, and we have the expansion in Harrison that we're looking at. And part of that calculation needs to be, well, what's the servicing and what is the future value of those lands to help contribute to it. But the way it's been so far is we probably haven't totally funded. We have not totally funded the cost of servicing them by the land sales, but you get other benefits from it. So
yeah, I understand that. Yeah. Some of them are hard to measure.
Yeah. So the Class EA, when it comes back to you this year, you can make a hard decision then. It's going to be $1.9 million and you'll get X number of lots. Do you want to go ahead? Do we want to scale it down? That's what you'll make in the EA decision, and you'll see those figures.
Right.
Linda has comments. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Maybe. I don't know. Well, part of it I was going to say is part of the answer to your question is when we do the development charge study every 5 years, that's supposed to assess the cost of growth. The disadvantage is it doesn't cover everything. It doesn't come close, and our rates are fairly low too. But yeah, there's such an advantage. And the trick with industrial versus residential too is the share of taxes. Minto has a smaller share, education has a much larger share, even though as we started out saying that the education rate has gone down, yes, but primarily on the residential side, so they still get a good part of that. But the school board's not going to service the park, and it's one of
That's
those
right.
things where you have to kind of look beyond, because hopefully those employment lands supply workers who buy houses,
Yep.
shop downtown,
That's
and support the rec facilities. So yeah, it's a tough analysis.
And on, you want, is that what you?
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Okay.
So back when I first started, like 10 years ago, when the town was working with Colliers and Gordon
Yeah.
has more history, I believe at that time we were asking like 45,000 an acre, and that was the cost
Yeah.
that which we had to sell for to cover our costs
Right.
basically. But we were way higher than everyone else, and then that's when everyone said, let's match the price of our neighbors at least. But absolutely, if we have to spend tons of money to add more things, we definitely will.
And further up on that, Belinda, we keep a calculation on that. I know from the Economic Development Committee, what we do look at is, okay, it's $15,000 an acre, but we have development charges that some of our neighbors don't have. So we try to keep it reasonable that if we can compete with North Perth and with some of the other. But as I speak, the county, we have a county development charge too, and that was a hard part because we couldn't compete somewhat. That's why we kept the price down. But now you're seeing some of those counties have to say, look, we got to get some development charges here because the cupboard's bare, and so our county's in pretty good shape. So they're able to come back with a smaller increase again this year, which we have to take advantage of at the local level, and because the blended rate will be better. So it's a trade-off, but we weren't selling many lots at 45, were we? No, and look what we've done today, and all those jobs are coming in, and we've got people.
And just my follow-up to that is, how much of that was because of the price of the lot versus the timing of the development? Because I can see, like, when Brian talks about going to a 12-inch main as opposed to a 4-inch, if I was an industrial company wanting to locate, that'd be the stuff I'd be looking at, is what is the capacity and what can I get there. And that's a chicken and egg thing, but I truly believe that price of the lot doesn't have a lot of effect on whether somebody comes there or not.
You have to have and I think Wayne can touch on this better than I, but you can get the logistics of the flows
You bet.
that are required in your water. Water means the supply.
And I'll tell you what, like a feather to Belinda and whatnot. I believe that I truly believe that it wasn't the low price of the lot that attracted people. It was what the municipality is doing, the progressive nature of the staff, and so on and forth. That's what I believe people are coming for, not the price of the lot.
All your staff working together, it comes together. And you can see on the maps that Mike's done up, the red shows you what's been completed in each town in red since 2012.
Since 2012.
That is really good
2012.
too. I'm going to point that out.
So it sort of gives you an idea what we've done over the last four years.
Big time.
But I think the price of the lots could go up a bit. And we're looking into that, and I think that was on the plate for economic development going forward. Now that we have our own sewer operation too, we can get a good handle on it.
Yeah,
that would be good. Just one question on the Elora Street one. Did you have a time? We want to go as early as we can in the spring.
Soon
and
as
are we trying to be done by what? Because we got the IPM, and I'm just
done by June.
If
I can get those guys in there in April, they're going to go in April.
Well, because, in the end of the day, we're going to have both ends ripped up, right?
That's
so, because we're going to have the roundabout at the other end. It'd be nice to get all the paving done fairly quickly and not have it dragged out.
And at the meeting that was mentioned I think Bill came back and you were at the meeting too.
Yeah.
So yeah, as soon as they can get on to the Laura Street, that's when we want them in there.
And as soon as they get on Ron's land.
Yeah, ripped it up, yeah.
So, natural gas and Whiteman's have been really busy that corner.
Yeah, I know.
Not very nice weather for
No,
them
I
to
know,
do
but they have
that.
to get it all ready because they've made a commitment to us as well to get that done. Okay.
So on the next slide, you'll see 945,000 on the Laura Street. That's the Williams and Lights reconstruction. 35,000 for Queen Street, the base coat asphalt behind Murphy's, and then 150,000 for your inflow and infiltration, which is still being worked on in Harrison. Any questions on that?
Is the inflow done in Palmerston?
Pretty much tidied up there, right, Mark?
Yeah,
Just a little bit of
Okay.
increment will be a big one, yeah. And,
It was just, they were mentioning Inkerman Street. That was one identified in the study as the sewer's underwater, groundwater.
Yeah.
And old, so it's a major source of infiltration. And I think there's a $30,000 amount in there, but we're also due with a report back on where we are on sewage capacity in Palmerston.
Yeah, I'm hoping for that report sooner than later because I think we've got a big gain there.
I think, without going too far out on a limb, Mark would probably tell us it's looking a lot better than it was.
Regain ground, Mark?
So that's good.
You guys were sinking.
Yeah, just a quick question. The roundabout activity domes.
Yeah.
Supposed to be finished?
Oh yeah, no, that's what I was asking.
Not
it's
at
supposed to be
Tivia
done by
Not
the end of
Tivia,
June.
White's Road.
There's not happening.
Just White's Road.
Tivadale's isn't happening.
Just White's Road.
Just White's Road.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
nothing on Tivadale.
Okay. Never?
No, it might be down the road, but not this year.
Okay.
Oh, it'd be brutal.
I think you should.
Brian, I don't think we touched on the water and sewer improvements in Harrison.
no, for the Main Street.
Well, at the plant and the lagoon system and aerators and blowers and
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me.
That's
So,
40,000.
yeah,
24,000 and 16,000
for blowers, aerators system. Go ahead, Mark.
most of the South 3 needs
Come on
to
up.
be upgraded.
You have to come up, Mark. Yeah, 'cause our public are out there. Somebody said the other day I was doing too much of this, Judy. I don't know.
You do that much.
I do.
Or I
Street. Well, some of us.
I do this.
And I swing back too far, and they can't see me. Just roll. Block that.
I sit back here too.
Yeah. So there you go. People do
So
watch.
our cell 3 in Harrison, the aerators need to be upgraded to meet the certificate of approval, and we have existing blowers in the aeration building that are 30 years old. We've been continually upgrading them over the course of the last couple of years.
It's in that.
Yep.
Yeah, good.
And what budget is that? Is that part of?
it doesn't have a pretty picture of it, but it's in the
In the inflow and infiltration budget?
no, that's
Oh, it's in the,
yeah, it's not actually the water and sewer improvements. Just looking at it are not covered in the presentation. They're in the
Oh, okay.
main report.
You get it back there, dude.
Go ahead.
Okay, then we'll move into Palmerston. Here you have a couple carryovers, a couple top coat asphalts on Walker and Low Street. And then you have the continuation of James Street and the finishing of the first block and then the reconstruction of the second block.
Just area of town where James Street, I know all the other ones, but.
Right by the library.
Yeah,
James,
Library.
that's when they go
See,
back
Oh,
in
yeah,
line.
right on, right. Yep. It's William and then James.
And then you'll have Jane Street in Inkerman if the funding comes through on that. And that's 1.7 million, which is a big chunk. And what else we got on the Palmerston?
Pension low and Walker.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
Top coat asphalt. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Pretty much
Yep.
it. Dean and Aikman really,
Yeah.
Plant.
Any questions? No. Move ahead.
So you have 658,000 on James Street, which I mentioned, and then 1.1 million on Jane and Increment for the road construction. Down the bottom, you'll see I'm putting in the curbs. That's on James Street from the Main Street up to the library.
And the sidewalk's really nice. It's too bad we couldn't have got the pavement on.
Well, it's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough going through there.
Well,
Yeah,
I
we're
haven't
trying
been
to,
as many-
it's hard to maintain it over the winter,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
we're doing our best we can.
Yeah.
Can't get this
Not much
winter
you can
over
do.
soon.
We left the construction signs up there, so let's
Yeah, I know.
keep her down.
You travel about 10.
Yeah. And you can see Jane Street in the other picture that shows how bad a condition that really is. Especially for people backing out of the driveways.
It looks straight.
Are we doing sidewalks on that? Are we redoing the sidewalks there too?
Just on the one side.
Yeah, on the one side. Yeah, well, no, because you got the trees.
I tried to go on the other side, but they'll cut me off. So.
No, you don't need them.
Gord cut him off. I'll let Gord do the dirty work.
Yeah. All right. Moving on.
And there's a couple small, if you see in the red there's a couple small streets that we've done since 2012 in Palmerston also. Then we move out to our rural areas. So in 2016, we got, I think it was 283,000. And that's for your sixth line, to finish up the sixth line. Site lane. Yeah, the rails. Yeah, that's right. Going to put rails on Sipes Lane outside of Clifford there, just so we can expand on our years to replace that culvert there.
Right.
So,
Sipes Road.
Sipes Road.
That was it. Is that Agnes Sipe
I'm not
lived
sure.
there? My grade 3 teacher.
Oh, was
She's
it?
dead now, I'm sure.
Hey, be careful.
I was trying to find
This
it.
is fourth line.
Go ahead.
Line, White Road.
That's right.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, do we have any capital costs associated with the IPM?
6 line.
That's what I'm going to say, sixth line, other than sixth line.
No, fourth line.
Gillespie Lane.
Gillespie Lane, yeah.
Fourth line wasn't.
No.
Fourth line wasn't.
Is there any capital involved for this line?
No.
Okay.
Oh, like that.
We have 30,000 in the operating for
Yeah.
IPM, but not.
Like
And-
sixth line was scheduled anyway.
We moved it up. a little.
It had a very low condition rating. It should be in here.
Yeah.
I think it was 5, wasn't it?
And also we did Gillespie Lane widening,
Yeah, it was 5.
so it was a 5. So remember 4 is really bad.
Yeah, 4 is really bad. It was closing in. It just worked well to do it.
So 4 is worse than 5?
Well,
Yes.
4 and 5 are bad.
Yes.
What lives on those?
Yes. Yeah, I see it's listed there as bad.
Is you see how it's listed there, Gene?
Yeah.
It's down
uh-huh.
there.
Yeah. It doesn't have the right color on it.
Oh, it's not the right color yet? Well, we'll get there. It'll just give it time. Give it time.
27.
Yeah.
What did you say?
But there is recognition.
Thank you.
It's on the list.
Yep.
Closer than you've ever been.
This is true. I worked for the furniture manufacturer. I was on the list for 3 years. Until I got to the top.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to hit this again if you're agree.
So you can see on this drawing also, your red indicates which ones we've done in the last 4 years also, so in the rural areas. Is there any questions?
I love the way this is, and you can point it out to people.
Oh, this is great.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving forward.
Then we got Public Works Capital, miscellaneous and rural. So you had your 300,000 for a plow truck replacing a 1999 Volvo Tandem, and that's Dave's old yellow truck out there.
He likes that truck, though.
He does.
You get it back?
I don't know if we'll get him back to drive a new one or not. So might have to pick up another part-time guy. We're replacing truck 18, which is the one that Daryl's driving around in now. 45,000 is F-150. We have a $90,000 wastewater, which is split between 2 service truck, which you see in the picture. And then 283,000 6-line resurfacing, which I talked about there briefly. We have 100,000 in water SCADA system, which we went out with RFP on, and they have started with theirs. And 50,000 we cut back on a little bit on the sidewalks this year, so have 50,000 for sidewalks.
Here we go.
It's actually not cut. It's up from 35. And we're doing a lot of other sidewalk in the others.
Oh.
He did have it at 100. and I know that we
I went back to get 50. So they cut it 50.
Okay, so it's a little fight here at the table. Do you have a question?
Judy had hers up first.
Okay, Judy.
Well, thank you. Through you, can you sell me on the water wastewater service truck, please?
Yeah, we're just sticking with the truck replacement program on this. And
Oh, this is the one. So we only have one like this.
We have two.
no, we have another service truck for public works.
Oh,
But
that's what I thought.
This is water. This is going to be split between water wastewater
So we already have one
for
like
public
this
works. Yes,
For roads and
for roads.
for
drainage.
roads. So we are getting a new one then, or new to us at least.
For
Water
water,
for
waste. Yeah, we're
Okay.
trading. This is water wastewater here. We already have one, and we're replacing.
Oh, that's what I'm asking.
Oh, I didn't know we had one like that.
So we
for
have a
water.
service truck for roads and we have one for water and wastewater.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I thought that was a new thing. I didn't realize. we
No,
already had one.
no. It's replacement.
Yeah, it doesn't do as many things as the other one does, right? Well, I don't
You
know.
want me?
But it won't.
great.
It
We
won't.
never see it.
Can it pick up the drain?
Yeah.
thing?
Where does it go? Is it in a shop somewhere?
I've seen it.
It's got
Sometimes
the-
I thought the new one was looking pretty bad. Then I realized there was another one.
It's got the hoist on the back.
It has a hoist.
Yep.
It has
It's-
another hoist. We have two hoists.
Yes,
Yeah, I
check
know. The logo
on
says
it.
it's an old truck. The logo says it's an old truck.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a
And I'm
question.
not sure what year that is. 2004.
Bill.
Is that box going to be replaced or is it a new one? I can't remember, Brian.
No, it's going to be replaced.
Is it stainless steel?
Does it
Yeah,
need to
it's
be?
going to be stainless steel.
No, but this one isn't.
Part of it is. Yes, it is. Part of it.
Does it need to be replaced?
You probably need it. Well, now that we took over sewers, we'll need more cabinets and stuff.
So what's the value of this when we trade it in? Because that box is worth a fortune, I would think.
I'm
There's a
not
good
sure.
buck for
Did
that,
you
I
ever price it out what the trade-in value was?
Well, when I first traded, did got a value on it, and we were actually just did a quick thing to catch that.
Right. You want to come up?
Do we need it? Do we need to keep it?
Well,
Need to keep.
Yeah. Do we need to?
What was that?
Well, I'm just saying, do we need to keep it?
Keep the box.
Or do we, or is it more valuable to us to trade it in if we need a bigger, better one?
Well, I guess that would, we'd have to look at some funding that would be to replace that box. But right now that every compartment in there is right full with mostly water stuff right now and a few sewer supplies. But like we have generators in there, we have water pumps in there, we have cutoff saws, we have ladders, we have, all kinds of hand tools that we use to work with are in that truck. But as we take it on the sewer now a little more, then we can get some more supplies in there so that we do have breaks or backups or, we've got stuff ready available when we pull up on site.
go ahead.
So that $90,000, does that include a new box with that truck?
That's what, yes.
Stainless steel.
That was.
And it doesn't include it doesn't account for a trade-in value.
No,
No.
it doesn't.
No, so we that'll have to.
So that number will be down considering the trade-in.
The trade-in value of that truck.
And I think correct me if I'm wrong on this, but when Center Wellington was doing, we used to see the Center Wellington truck up here for wastewater because although we were training, we used their truck for a lot of the stuff. Is that right or wrong? Did we have our own guy out?
That's
Yeah, because that's the difference, Judy. They have to double up what they have to put in there, or almost double up what they have to put in that truck.
Yeah, that's
Right?
correct.
Okay, so because that would have been part of our, in those days we paid $285,000 operating, which took into consideration that we didn't have that truck.
Yep.
So I think when we did this whole thing, we're not going to save a ton of money, but at the token, we're going to be in control and hopefully we'll get a better system.
Yep. That's correct.
Sorry.
I just need clarification on water, SCADA. What does the acronym stand for?
Oh my God.
SCADA.
SCADA system.
Yeah.
Okay, what is that? That is our electronic, it's our electronic
It's the hub,
control.
it's the brains of your,
Yeah.
your system. But there is something data system.
Supervisory.
Yeah.
Supervisory.
Supervisory control and
Acquisition
There we
is
are.
what the term is.
He's been
Yeah.
in school.
Now-
Did he Google that?
Now,
No, he didn't have time.
you have to know
Oh,
that
he did. They know how
next
to
month
work.
now. You have to know that next month.
What?
SCADA, what it means next
Oh, I'll
month.
remember what it means.
Oh,
How
there you
it's
go.
been explained. I've never heard
This
of
is
it
a
before.
test job.
Basically,
Alright.
they
No
can
problem.
monitor the water and sewer systems from the computers.
That's all I remember.
Okay.
Ours are very dated and it has to be replaced.
Cars like dinosaurs.
I think we should just tell the town to put bottled water because this water system is just. You're an expensive boy to keep around.
Me?
You're in charge.
Yeah. that's right.
Not good.
Yeah, you don't want to neglect it.
No, I
Trust
know.
me.
Oh, Terry.
Any
I need
questions?
water.
Speaking
Here.
of water,
I know, I don't, now as soon as you mention water. Now I'm having a coffee. Actually, I was at the mayor's breakfast, little side note, at the mayor's breakfast in Erin this morning, and they were talking about some of their competitions. One of the things was they went with a fundraiser at the arenas and put refillable water coolers. Didn't cost the town anything. Basically, they just they did a fundraiser with the local people, and I thought, what a great idea. And the other thing they had on the boards there, Al, was for sledge hockey and that, they put through the accessibility fund, they put glass boards on the one end so that people can come in wheelchairs and look through the boards then to watch a hockey game.
Oh, neat.
And they had a picture of it, and it's in the Hillsburg Arena, and they just put it in, and it cost $6,000 or something. They placed a section of the boards at the end.
wow.
So I was going to bring that back to tell you, but I thought it was quite a neat things, eh? And they were able to use the accessibility fund from the county for that.
I was also going to mention on that service truck, I think Senator Wellington was looking at ours.
Or buying
Is
ours?
it like, no, for looking at the design on it.
Okay.
So
Is there any, I remember talking about this several years ago, is there any movement afoot where water guys and water equipment and water parts and water trucks will need to be kept separate from sewer type things, just because we're talking clean water and not so clean water?
not as of yet. It might be down the road with the new regulations coming in with wastewater, but as of yet, there's no.
Nothing on the
And usually
horizon?
it's the new stuff that you store on it. The old stuff is thrown out.
Yeah, that's right,
Yeah. And that's coming down the pipe too, wastewater regulations. They've started pretty heavy on the inspections now, so it's coming.
Mayor Bridge, the last section to cover is just administration.
Yep.
Capital. Just hitting some of the highlights. There's some street light work that Brian would like to do in each of the communities that have street lights. So there's a small amount for each area. The records management is continuing on with our going electronic system and upgrading our equipment. That's $47,000. I think that, well, it's maybe been going slower than we had hoped. It is a dramatic improvement from a staffing perspective. I do believe we've saved at least a half-time position by going electronic. And I think it's better for updates and getting the agenda together. What used to be an all-day challenge is much less than that. And remember, we have the obligations, and in the next couple of years, we need to have a proper records management system in place. And so once we get eScribe working the way we want, it'll start putting the reports in the proper files, and the files system is designed based on a standard accepted across the province for file management. So those costs are, some of them are carryover, they're expensive, but we need to keep moving forward with this. That will include training for you to continue to use your e-scribe and making it easier and that kind of stuff. So we are committed to that, and we've come a fairly long way in a year, and it's, I think, worthwhile. And I think overall what we present to you at council meetings is better and more informative, and there's more information and more transparency on our website and people accessing it. So I hear more and more every day about the people who are watching it on TV after and going online.
That's wonderful.
And I think that's important.
Nobody talks to you.
The town office footings, grading, and landscaping. We talked a little bit about naturalization earlier. We started naturalizing with the warden's tree planting. The county's going to come back and do some free stuff too. But the big concrete access wheelchair ramp at the front, if you look at it, it's starting to move away from the building. If we get any water in the basement, we believe it's primarily coming in there. We would like to remove that. We'd like to put some curbs in, and before we did all that, we'd like to pressure treat the foundation wall that's in the front, and that we would believe would collect a lot of that stuff. And get that big concrete ramp out and use grade, and I'd like to bring the landscape drawing back to you to do that. As for the future foyer expansion, we probably do not need an addition on the building. Staff spent an hour or two one day with the existing furniture, and that change out there created 2 more workplaces, and we're not using them because we're down because of fewer staff. We did not replace at least a half-time person at this point in time. So the addition, we've delayed that. There's some things that we can do with this building to keep that capacity there if the town wants to increase its staff administrative capacity in the future. But a lot of people have commented about that change, and it looks like you did a lot. We spent nothing but elbow grease and effort. That's the same furniture that's been out there for a long time, but it's just more efficiently placed. But if in the future we did move another desk right to the front, and we use the existing heated area and put a small weather resistant addition out front there, you could gain at least another workplace, and you could do some workplace safety things as well, because right now you walk in and you can walk right into the building. If we were ever, as security issues grow, we may look at something that's a little more restrictive getting into there. But that's not in this budget. It's primarily to get the grade change, take that big hunk of concrete off the front, landscape all the way around to the flagpoles, and do some of the naturalization that we talked about. It's going to really spruce up the town office. It's going to be more environmentally friendly, and without a lot of cost, I think increase our space inside. The other project, there's a little bit of work we want to look at doing out front of the Public Works portable, maybe a movable ramp and a new door in that. In terms of the emergency plan, we're working with the floodplain, with the Conservation Authority to upgrade the Harrison floodplain maps. We're told by the county that the map base is finished by the province, so we should be getting access to that this year, and that will mean the Conservation Authority can do their in-kind services, which was to model the floodplains. Remember, council paid for added monitoring in the watershed, and their participation was to model the floodplains for us. We do have a little bit of money to finish that project up, so we intend to bring back floodplain mappings to you in 2016 or early 2017. We're depending a little bit on the Conservation Authority timing there. And then also in there is that generator you approved for Robertson Street and the rent with Guelph. There's some money for community gardens. There's $30,000 for general engineering so that we have some shovel-ready projects. And we'll maybe speak to you about what, through Public Works Committee, what projects we want to get ready. And some of them you've probably already talked about today. And last but not least, just for fun, the van that has served us so well for these 8 years or so.
Oh my goodness.
Probably should be.
Sure, we shouldn't fix it up.
If you're going to take it anywhere outside of here, it should be replaced. It would be partly paid for by funding from the building department, and would be here primarily for Stacy to do inspections or any other staff to use in inspection. So we will continue to encourage people to use that rather than their own vehicles. We'll be back to you on what kind of vehicle we might get for that price, and there would obviously be an RFP or a tender for that. In our vehicle use policy, there is a provision for the CAO clerk position to have a vehicle. That vehicle would not be used by this particular CAO clerk, but you would have it there in the event you wanted to use it as a recruitment tool sometime in the next 5 to 10 years or so.
10 years, I heard. I
By
don't
then
know.
it won't be any good.
Yeah, but the vehicle would be there, at least in your budget. So we're encouraging you to replace it. It's got some issues.
Oh, yeah.
What year is it?
It's 2008, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's
Oh, it's
Oh,
true.
three.
Yeah.
Might have been used when you bought it,
Oh, yeah.
so it doesn't owe you anything.
Oh, yeah, where the wiper.
Remember the London
Head
one?
out the window so we can see.
Oh, my goodness.
No wipers in a snowstorm. That was really interesting.
Well,
Drove that
sorry,
one.
but you
I
gotta
drove,
complain about
yes.
more than wipers.
I heard it was Matt
Wipers
that
are
was
easily
responsible.
replaced.
For
Well, no,
leaving
but
it at
not when you're driving.
I'll tell you, London, him and the wheel couldn't see.
night. Get
Yeah.
back in control.
Did you?
I know, but you can't replace a vehicle because wipers are.
No. It's
A
past.
lot more than the way.
Oh, my God. You should have been with us, Judy.
Oh, it's past its prime.
Council took its
If
life in
it's
its
shaking,
hands.
that's the kind of stuff, that's better. There's a
Oh,
good
it's-
reason,
no, it's-
yes.
Disc bearings and tie rod ends and
Yes.
We actually don't allow it.
CV
I just keep
boots.
replacing those things on my truck.
Fred Flintstone had a better floor than we did.
We don't allow it outside the township anymore, really.
It's not taken very far.
Any other questions on this? I think the gradings and footings, and Bill, I'll give you a lot of credit because we had a bigger project before, but we know that's where the leak is. We're pretty positive, and if we don't fix that, we're going to be in a big problem with if we ever got mold in the basement or something for health issues. So I think this has to get done. We're not, and when we do this, we're not. One time we were looking at putting the ramp back inside, but that wouldn't be with this.
No, if we actually had the young architects from
Yeah.
Clifford look at it, and they came up with this. Actually, never sent us a bill, which they probably should, but they suggested using grade rather than a mechanical ramp. And I think if you look at it, it's a lot of asphalt to get across, so it'll give a buffer for people to stop and stand and come in our building, and it'll look a lot better and better access for people of all abilities.
Anything else? Good.
Oh, the other thing, community gardens, Mayor Bridge, we do have 5,000 for community gardens.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna.
Funny enough, Palmerston really hasn't sort of
Nobody's come out of the woodwork.
come out of the woodwork yet to champion that project in that community like Clifford and Harrison did. So we'll be rooting around, seeing if you hear of anyone wants to come forward. There's some funding there.
Rooting
And
around.
I
That
think-
was very good. That was very good.
Stacy isn't here, but I think Harrison was totally full last year. We got lots of room to expand in Harrison, so I'd like to leave it in there. And if we use it, Harrison might need some. It's about the third year. They might need a little help there getting some repairs. I don't think that they looked like good the last I left them.
Yeah.
I
I hear people are still gardening, still digging up root
Well,
vegetables
we
like
had-
last week.
we had kale till
Seriously?
like a long time, and the kale lasts a long time. So I think the project's moving along, and maybe with that 5,000, we can, if they don't go on Palmerston with it, we can push the Harrison and Clifford one and try to get them to even increase. We got room in both those places for more, so if we can get them going, we'll look at that. So
Sell cauliflower and build a road.
I'll tell you,
Well, you can't buy it anywhere.
you can't buy it anywhere if you bought it for $6 a head now.
$6 for celery today.
Yeah, if you're lucky. And yeah.
Mayor Bridge, that's where we're at. You haven't had a lot of time to go through. Well, you've had the detail, but I mean, you may want to think about individual projects. We should maybe talk briefly about our public process. From here, we usually go to a public meeting, and that would tentatively be scheduled to go at 5 o'clock on March 15th. before our regular council meeting. I mean, our open houses are infamously poorly attended by the public, 2 or 3, 4, 5 people. But the offer is out there. All the information is online. They can now see everything that you can see. So if they really want to pay attention to it, they can do that. But I think offering that time to come in here and meet with any one of you or any one of the department heads is a wise thing to do. And it's fairly informal. I think the people who have come have enjoyed it. I've enjoyed talking to you and get some of the information that sort of was referred to by some of you tonight about how much goes into making these decisions and how A affects B affects C and why we do what we do. So where you sit right now is 4.9 something. That's including 100,000 new capital in there. If you were to pull that out to get back to where you were last budget, then last budget meeting, then we would need to pull some of these projects out of there that are tax supported. We can't promise to you at this time that with a blended rate you're going to be at 3 or below. It depends on a lot of factors, but we would be hopeful that that's where we would want to be on a blend, is in the range of 3. Gord needs a little bit more information on that before.
The big variable will be what the tax rates are for both the county and education. That's probably a couple of months away. Because I think you're getting close to knowing what the levy change will be. Then you have to crank it all through. See, again, it's your changes between classes. Like we know the farmland keeps going up and that. Although at least this year, it's the final year of a 4-year phase-in. So there's a lot of things that are well known. As you also know, there's been a lot of successful appeals just in the southern part of the county. So that's all got to be taken into account too. In education, fortunately, the assessments in other parts of the province have gone up much faster than ours, and our shares come down. But we'll see. Haven't heard anything so far.
Well, go ahead, Jean, first.
I just have a question about the water rates. Item 23 sort of speaks to it briefly about the drastic drop in revenue and the impact that's going to have on people. And I know tax and water are separate bills, but it's still a bill that has to be paid by people.
It's a huge cash flow issue,
Do we have any idea what sort of increase we're going to be looking at in the base rate to compensate for the loss?
No, we don't. We're working with Dan Wilson of Watson's, and Jackie especially has been really good doing analytics and that. So we've sent everything that we have up to date every time we do a billing. And I'm hopeful within the next month to 6 weeks that you can come back before council and present some alternatives and see, because as you know, you as council, us as staff are mandated to be cost recovery. We adapt to the plan, and the drop in revenue has certainly been large in an overall situation.
I just think it'll be very unpopular with people. We told them the rates, the meters were coming in. We asked them to conserve their water. They did. And now we're going to say, well, you did such a good job of conserving your water, or we estimated we're going to charge you more for your base rate. So I think they're going to be.
And it may not be all base rate. It may be consumption too. I think, yes, people have conserved, but I think the initial estimate, I think that's the big one. As I say, 212 to maybe 160.
But we stressed very much through that process that water has to be self-sufficient, that it can't be supported by tax dollars. So the bottom line is we need X number of dollars to support our water system, and this was the way that we thought we would raise that amount of water or funds. It's been wonderful that people have cut back, and even with the new increase, they'll be benefited by cutting back. It's not that they will see an increase in water if they have their due diligence and continue to cut back.
I understand that. It's just the public perception, and people have short memories that they were,
Well, I think we need to stress that, because it was stressed quite a bit through the whole process as to the fact that, why we were doing this, and we felt this was the fairest way, and it still is the fairest way. It's not meeting our revenue needs, unfortunately, so we have to look at at adjusting that fair wage.
I don't disagree with that, but it seems to be a very hot topic. Like as soon as you mention water rates, people just go, well, I don't use as much water so-and-so down the road, and how come I'm getting it? I just think there'll be a bad public
And that
perception.
will be continue. That will continue. If he doesn't use as much water as so-and-so down the street, his bill will be lower.
Yes.
It might be higher than what he's seen today.
Right.
But it will still be lower than the gentleman down the street.
I get all that. I just think it's something we need to think about when we're looking at that because it's an unknown so far in the budget process, right? We don't know what impact.
Yeah, my worry would be, and because water has to be self-sufficient, we can't use any tax money for water. But the other problem is we have to be fair to our rural residents that don't have water and sewer, that pay for their own well systems and pay for their septic systems, that we're perceived to reduce something that we have on our capital budget for roads or whatever because we want to keep it down enough to offset anything because then what we are creating is what they don't want you to create, because we're creating two systems of taxpayers. Because I can now say to anybody out in the country, nothing to do with water and sewer with you. But if all of a sudden one of their roads doesn't get fixed and we move something off because we got this perception in our minds that, boy, we're going to have to move up our water rates, and that people are going to be mad at our tax rates go up at the same time, then what we're doing is we're creating exactly what we're not allowed to do, in my mind, Gord. I mean, other than supporting
I read the papers about Kitchener, and that's
a horror show.
Facing
Nightmare.
I think we've done a much better job.
And we do have quite a few of our clientele that aren't on sewer and water, so there are taxpayers, and I have to really be careful with that. And so that's one thing, Gene, I'd be worried about. And I can defend. When we went through this water stuff, if nobody was listening, that's their fault. We said this doesn't guarantee you have lower water rates going forward, but everybody will get a fair water rate. So if your next door neighbor is watering his driveway because he likes to have it nice and clean, and you're watching your water, he's going to pay more. And that's all I guaranteed. He would pay more for the usage. The problem was with what happened is, and it's great because we anticipated 25% reduction, 25, 30.
They anticipated the average would be relatively constant.
Yeah.
And it certainly hasn't been.
No. And so I still think we have to go through one more cycle. We have to kind of get that feeling, have our consultants kind of give us an idea, but we might have to move up the rates to bring the water. But I've had a lot of people come in, wow, my water rate is half of what it used to be. Well, but I say to them, by the way, we'll probably have to do something because we're not getting enough money to pay for it now.
If you look at this
I just
budget,
wanted to add too, if the water consumption is down, some of the estimates that were used to set our need for water may be adjusted accordingly because the costs associated may be down as well.
So
we may not need as much revenue as we would have needed a year ago to run our water system. Is that correct?
Does it though? Like when we need filtration systems, we need new aerators, we need new, and we've gone to.
But they might last longer.
Well, I don't know if there's less water moving through there. I know we don't want a lot of extra water running through the system because it costs to produce.
Well, to treat it costs us to treat it. If it's a running toilet. Did you want to speak to that?
Hoping not to.
That's the theory behind it.
That's the theory behind it.
Yeah,
Ron?
Is that the cost decreases?
I think that this has gone back, way back. People will believe, and you mentioned it, George, about two water bills. There's no water bill out in the country, but still there's there's a perception out there that they are paying for our sewers and they are paying for our water. There's a perception out there, and it's a difficult road, as we say, that to tell them that no, you aren't paying for that water tower, you aren't paying for that. That isn't going through the tax bill. That's going through the water bill. And I've had many rural person come to me and say, I hate paying for that water system and that sewer system because I don't get the use of it. Well, I said, you don't have to pay. We've got to do a sell on that somehow to create that it is a user pay.
Yeah, and also we're looking today at a $7.2 million capital budget, and $2.6 million of that is water and sewer. So we're definitely taking our water rates and reinvesting in the system.
I actually got information from you, took that out, showed that particular farmer.
Yeah.
And he said he woke up every morning, saw the water towers, and said, I can't vote for any of you councilors because you put that water towers in there. We're costing us. I showed him the bill, said, this is what's paying.
Yeah.
Show him the information. He said, you can show me all you want. I don't believe that. So,
Well, can't wait.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. I don't really believe that we promised anybody anything.
Nope.
We promised them a fair way of paying for their water. And so here we are. We're just nicely into the new, in less than a year. And we're learning a lot of things. And so we have to adjust it. We didn't make any promises other than we were going to do it fair.
And we'd review
yes.
it.
So, I mean, we have to look at it again and get on with it. We have to do what we have to do. Simple as that.
And just one more comment on the overall budget. The county has come in a little less than I even anticipated that I give Gord before at 2.5. But I can see the clouds on their horizon there. And they have a large infrastructure problem with bridges and roads that is going to start coming at us. So I think it's time to make sure we do this year, we take advantage of that room and not, because we fought the battle again. Sometimes some of the towns haven't taken advantage and they've just basically passed that savings on to, but it'd be different if you had nothing to do, but we have a massive asset management problem. We have a massive infrastructure deficit. So if we don't take the advantage of coming in at around the 5%, which gives us a little bit more room, then I think we're doing a disservice for our taxpayers as well, because at the end of the day, we're going to wake up and we're going to not be able to do stuff, and service cuts will have to come into play. Touch wood, we haven't had to close the road, and Judy knows this, in the country when people have had to close roads because they couldn't fix them in some of our municipalities close to us. And they're in a situation where now a farmer's affected, people are affected, they can't get to their house, they have to go way around. That's a reality in today's world. We're keeping our heads above water, but we have to be fair, and we have to take that little piece when we can get it. So I'm kind of like, I like the way this budget's come out so far. I'm all for cuts if there's reasons to cut, but I think the staff have done a pretty good job of looking at their level and bringing us, I think, something that's very plausible. And not that doesn't happen in every council around the world either. You see those 20 or 30% budgets dropped on a council, and they make the tough decision. Our staff have done a really good job of realizing where we want to be approximately. And I think the council has told them kind of, but we've come in, and I think Mary Lou from the finance chair, I think we've had some meetings, and I think the staff know where we're supposed to come in at, and I think this is doable for me. Anyways, that's my.
And I think that is the biggest part, and I've said it each year, and I repeat it again this year, is that the staff has done such a good job of downsizing before it reaches us, that we're not faced with a 10% increase that we have to cut. They have done the work for us and come with a realistic budget, that there might be the odd project that we could look at and say, okay, we don't agree with this or we don't agree with that, but that's all there is. Everything else, the work has been done before it reaches us, and I thank them again for the wonderful job they've done.
Any other comments or questions? We have time to look at the figures, and we'll have a bit of an idea too.
Firm up the year end and see where we
Well, that's
really
the other
are.
problem. The year end, we always have to worry about that. Hopefully, if we keep getting snowstorms every day now, that's not going to be so good, Brian, is it? No.
So when will we have a chance to discuss this again, or is this our final chance? Or
No, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, if I may, we'll have the budget open house on the 15th.
Yeah.
You get some feedback from the public. I'm assuming the media may watch the tape and report on where we are with our budget. Sometimes we've done a media release after that, and I would recommend we probably do a media release tomorrow or whatever, and just say we had our second budget and here's where we are. And then before the budget's actually approved, the board would do a final report after a public meeting, and then you would make a final decision on whether that is where you want to be. I think if we want to make big changes, like if where we are at 4.9 and an overall of 3 or 4 or whatever we are is not where the majority of council wants to be, then I would like to hear that now. Like if you feel like we're way too high still, then please tell us. If you want to wait and hear what the public has to say and 50 people come out, there's still time after that to make dramatic changes. So, but I'm hoping, like, as we present this, we're hoping that if you have serious issues with us, that we're hearing them.
And I guess, we had the glossy and you can drill down to the numbers if there's anything comes out. I feel free to let Bill know or the department heads. I've mentioned through Bill and Gord, if you have more questions, by all means ask them and feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, we're the ones that the staff will always tell you. I mean, they can come with any figures they want. At the end of the day, the people around this table are the ones that the public come to and say, I don't like this, don't like that. Now, so you have to feel comfortable in your skin that you know what the answers would be for those questions and why we're doing certain things.
The only question I have, and I mean, I agree, we need to work on infrastructure and we need to keep up. I think governments, whether they're municipal, provincial, or federal, ignore that and don't keep up the funding and say they kept the tax dollars low. 10 years down the road, you pay the bill. My only concern is the concerns about interest rates out there and what are they going to do? Are they talking, is the Bank of Canada really going to cut it down to zero? Are we going to get to a point where we're paying to keep money in banks, which is an unfathomable concept to me, but apparently could be our reality. If that suddenly changes, or if things suddenly change again, how difficult would it be for us to maintain our payments to? I recognize we need to borrow money in order to take advantage of the grants that they're offering. It seems foolish to bypass the grants, but how far do we go? When is Mr. Trudeau's federal government going to get into trouble as he promises things widely across the board? And when does that start to trickle down our way? And I'm very much afraid it's going to. His promises are not manageable. So where do we go with that? And I recognize we need to look forward. We need to move forward. We need to build infrastructure. Water and sewer safeties needs to be done. But when do we get to the point where, we, like all the other homeowners in Ontario or Canada who mortgage themselves to the hilt, one interest rate adjustment is going to do what to everybody?
And at the macro level too, like when the Bank of Canada's talking, they're talking the short-term overnight rates. We're talking 10, 20, 30-year money. And in fact, that's really not coming down a lot. It's actually trending the other way. It's like people with your mortgage and that too. The nice thing when we have a 20-year debenture, especially through Infrastructure Ontario, that's it. If we borrowed at 3%, that's 3%. The one disadvantage of going through the county, which we have in the past, when we go beyond 10 years, we have to refinance at the end of 10 years. So again, what are the odds they're going to be? They won't be lower, you wouldn't think, although we've been wrong almost every year on the interest rate. We keep thinking it's going up.
How many times you and I talked about that, Gordon? I mean, it's got to be going up.
Got to be going up. Goes down. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention too, Gene, one thing is that our reserves are higher than our debt. And that's key. That as long as we have more funds in reserves than we have out in debt.
Right, and I understand that, but at some point in time, there'll be a turning point where if you've debentured out enough, as Gord says, if you put it out for 20 years and at 10 years you have to renegotiate and the interest rate has changed drastically, do we have enough in reserves to accommodate that, or would we be in trouble? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. Right now, we don't have anything beyond 10 years that isn't fixed.
Right.
And we're going to try and see
it's out there. It's a concern, right?
Yeah. So that's why what they have up, the chart that they have up there is so critical, and we watch every year to make sure that doesn't slide the other way.
Yeah. So even though sometimes and what I'm liking, I'm hearing a little bit from the federal government now. I'm not liking the fact, Gene, that they're going that further. But what I am liking is they are now talking about they're putting more of the percentage into their funding as well in a project, which Gord, you and I have talked about many times. Yeah. The problem when you get into the problem in 2008 when they came at you with all this infrastructure so that we get out of the deficit, it became a third. And if you didn't have the third, you got in trouble. You couldn't do anything. So you went and bored a lot, would put you in a bit of a hole, as you know, going forward, and criticized or whatever. I never criticized that because it was a situation where the federal government now is saying maybe we got to put more than a third into infrastructure on our side. Maybe we got to put 50% back in, and then maybe the province will put 25, and then we're down to 25 or 20 because there's nothing left for us. We can't go out. In a lot of cases, people can't go out and borrow. They're not in a position. with Mary Lou and I, we've talked always about, that's why we're going to keep the reserves up a little bit. So when we do have a situation where we can take advantage of, where some of our other neighbors can't. But it's a tricky thing, and I wouldn't, anything that we do over a 20-year amortization, I would err on the fact of get your number, get it there. 10 isn't so bad because, you know, that your principal gets paid down, and, you know, even if you have a 5-year renewable on a 10, you've got your principal is higher at the beginning, so your saving on the interest is better than, but debt is a tricky thing because you can do a lot more by going into debt, but you have to be able to carry it going forward and operating.
Exactly.
And what this staff have done, and what I really like about it is, in our operating, as you know, when you looked at our operating, there's a lot of money set aside for reserves. So we get a situation of a fire truck or something. We're not having to go, and that isn't the same everywhere. There's lots of communities that don't do a lot of truck reserves and this type of thing. And then at the end of the day, when something has to get replaced, they're caught because now I got to borrow for it because I got nothing in reserve, and it goes on that tax base that year. And those are tricky times. So.
Then that's my concern. And
Yeah.
the federal government can promise what they like, but reality is you can only get so much blood from a stone, and
Yeah.
it's the same taxpayer that's paying the federal government,
Well,
whether we like it or not. And concerns about the healthcare dollars, and we're cutting nurses' jobs and we're cutting positions because healthcare costs are out of sight. First time that the provincial government has actually put a figure on it, and we're talking 40% of our provincial tax dollars next year being paid on healthcare costs, and that's at their current level. As we all know in the news last week, we lost how many people to cancer that are the age of baby boomers and so forth and so on. The healthcare costs are going to skyrocket. They are, just by the virtue of the numbers that are going to be in the system. So I've mentioned this concern before, and I just don't want to see us getting ourselves, and I'm not an accountant and I'm not a banker, but you just have some concerns about how far can we go. And you don't want to jeopardize the infrastructure for the town, but you want to make sure you're in a position where you're not going to be jeopardized.
am I right or wrong? But we're not boring this year.
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
Are we
we
now?
Yeah.
I've
I've got
700,000. That's right, 700,000.
Yeah, and that's
It was
like,
higher.
Yeah, for various projects. That site plane.
That's right. We have old and new debt. That's what confuses you. You got old and new.
So 760, we do have new, and so
And that 760 is dependent on some of these projects
Sure.
actually happening.
Or
I
being
understand that.
finished.
If the rest of the funding doesn't come through, we don't go forward with them.
that's right. But as the mayor says, like even if there's a wonderful program comes down every year, they said, I don't think Minto can leap at every one because you start to hit that limit and you just can't finance what it is. And that's where, the old saw, property taxes and that can't do it alone. We need that charity HST.
I'm working on this new job of trying to organize an economic development committee for the Western Wardens with this separated cities, and so it's about 3.5 million people this side of Toronto. And when I'm talking to the city mayors, one of the biggest problems they have as well is we've got to get down to a better funding system. And we cannot do the budgets the way we do them today. I mean, we do them as Mary Lou said. Well, we'll do that if we get the grant. But why can't we have the money that should be coming to us from gas tax and other things that we have it every year? So we know as a councillor that. But I think Big Brother always felt that we at our level aren't sophisticated enough or whatever to understand how to. So they're going to keep our money for us and they'll give it to us in little bits when we need it. So that. We got to get rid of that.
Yeah, hospitals have worked like
we're
that
all,
for years.
Yeah, and we got to get rid of that. And it's not fair because you can't do it at a local level. So that's an overall picture, and I'll keep working at that until I'm probably blue in the face and gone. But that we're not alone in that. And there is some government programs. This last one, 50% of it was that they came out with was sustainable funding, and the other 50% is a grant.
Yeah, the OCI.
Yeah, and they're thinking about maybe changing that to a full one. Full non-grant, because I think that's the only way we're going to ever get a handle on this.
Yeah.
But we'll have an opportunity to talk to those people down there at the caucuses and tell them.
And tell them. How they should be doing things.
Mayor Bridge, unless there's any further comment, to close things out, if we could have a motion to have an open house on the 15th at 5, and then there's a couple of prepared motions to finish off the meeting.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Faulkner and seconded by Councillor Dirksen. All in favor? And then the ones we have as our motion, if I get them here.
The Deputy Mayor had them.
These two?
Yep, should be those two.
So just a reminder that we are not adopting these minutes, so the minutes will come with Gord's final budget report, and that's when you'll adopt your budget.
Moved by Councillor Caldwell, second by Councillor Dirksen. The town of Minto Council convenes into the committee of the whole to conduct budget. We already done
Did
that.
that? Yep, you should sign that one.
That's
Mr. Deputy
Ron
Mayor.
signed that one.
Okay.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Faulkner, second by Councillor Anderson, that the committee of the whole convenes the town of Minto Council. All in favor? Okay, and do we have a little bit of bite to eat yet here?
You have homemade food,
Do we bring our own or what?
courtesy of Annalene. So.
Oh,
Annalene.
Annalene made something
And
for us.
so we have a close at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
There should be one more
Was there one more resolution? I don't see it here.
adopting proceedings.
Oh,
German?
I'm not trying to do that.
We actually do.
We had number 11 on it.
Well, no, aren't we? We don't adjourn because we just went into.
Well, we
convenes
did
in
a
the
whole
town of
series
Minto.
of
wait
new
a
ones
minute.
to open you up.
We
Ah,
still need to do.
Hang on, Ron's
My
got one
zoning?
here. He's hiding it.
We'll go into a new meeting this afternoon or this
A move
evening.
by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Caldwell. The council of town of Minto adjourned to meet again with call Mayor. You're right. All in favor? Good. Yeah, and then we'll just start over.
We missed number 9 though, adopting proceedings of the committee of the whole.
Well,
So
let's see
that's the
one.
ones we're going to leave them. They're not adopted,
Right.
so
Oh,
you'll
yeah, that's
adopt
what
them
you meant.
separately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because that's why, Judy, you were saying, is this the last time? You'll still have more time to
Okay.
fire this.
Theoretically, if you did that and then a bylaw came, you'd have your budget. You couldn't change it.
Oh, gosh.
I'd
Can't have
like to
that.
leave it open. So.